evening and welcome to a special stream. How is everyone tonight? Hello? Hello, everyone who is here. I have to open the YouTube chat. I got the wrong chat open. I got the old outdated chat open. What's going on, everyone? I see everyone on Kick. How you doing? Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're ready to chill with my year-end series. People every year ask me, Phil, what was your favorite games of the year? What playthroughs did you like? What didn't you like? What do you remember from last year? What was notable? And that's what we do in these year-end series, right? We run that down. We summarize it all in one or two videos and a stream or two. And that's what it's all about tonight, is relaxing, chilling, and thinking about the year that was 2024, which certainly was a weird year for games. I mean, I don't think in the entire time that I've been a YouTuber, there's been a weirder year. A year where a lot of the big games that were popular were actually not big games, meaning they were indie games that came out of nowhere and stuff that were shockingly good compared to the AAA games that came out and just weren't very good, right? I think it was a big year very much like that. So tonight, we start with the disappointments. We start with the worst, and then we get to the good stuff, all right? So depending on how tonight goes, we'll see if we can actually get to the best games or best playthroughs countdown, I should say, or if we save that for tomorrow night. It really depends on how fast we move through this stuff. Okay. Now, this is a good position for the mic because it sounds good, but it's blocking the sign a little bit. So if I can make it just a little bit higher, a little bit hanging in like that, right? Now it doesn't block the sign, and hopefully it's close enough that it sounds good. If we're having issues with audio, please let me know, and I'll adjust and say, well, screw the sign. I'll just get it as close as possible then, okay? The slow mode is still happening, the slow mode issue. All right, let me turn off slow mode on YouTube. Apparently, YouTube still has not fixed this slow mode issue where people can't talk, so I'm going to turn off slow mode again. I'm sorry, guys. Stupid YouTube sucks. I don't know. Again, you know what happened. Someone who works at YouTube who's a coder, who literally doesn't test their code, they just throw it out there without proper testing, expects that everyone's supposed to put up with the fact that now no one can talk when slow mode's on because of an error. There you go. Pretty stupid. I turned it off. Greetings, Retro Danny. Yes, this will be a very interactive stream. As I'm going through the top 20 most disappointing playthroughs of the year, I certainly hope that you guys will chime in and let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did I leave something off the list? Do I have something on the list that you think is ridiculous and shouldn't be on there? You're going to see this is very different from a worst games of the year countdown. That is not what this is at all. I don't do worst games of the year countdowns. Never have. I totally get that. You know, Kino Casino has just come back from a long hiatus, and I know they're streaming tonight, so I know people probably will be coming in and out to check in, and that's, you know, not upset by that. I get it. How am I doing? I'm doing all right, except I keep having some technical issues, okay? And allow me to explain what I mean by that. Basically, when I go to this screen, what did I click? Okay. When I go to this screen, okay, which is my gameplay screen, this is usually where I'm capturing either from PS5 Pro or from PC, things keep screwing up on this screen, and I can't figure out why. The YouTube pop-ups, those keep resizing on me. My camera keeps resizing on me, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's causing it. I'm literally not changing anything. It's changing itself. And it's actually starting to drive me nuts at this point, because it seems to keep happening on the regular. So hopefully it'll stop, but I don't know what's causing it, so I can't stop it myself. You know, earlier today I was playing Dark Souls, and all of a sudden someone contributes, no pop-up. What happened? I don't know. Let me look. Pop-up seems to be gone. It's there, but it won't. It's like invisible. Why? I don't know. So I go and I say, let's delete it and re-add it. So I delete it and re-add it. Okay, now I have to move it and resize it. So I do. My camera shrinks down to the size of like a pea, like this small. And it was like right where the cursor is. That's where the camera was. I was microscopic. And everyone was laughing, saying, what happened? I don't know. Do you think I did that? Do you think that I sat here and shrunk my camera? I don't even know how to do that. It just did it for no reason. I'm like, what the hell? So it was frustrating, so I had to fix it. So it ended up being like a 5 to 10 minute fix live during the stream. I don't want to do that. I just want to stream and have fun with games. You know, I'm not a tech guy who wants to sit here and screw around with technology constantly. Then I have to be on this screen nearly all night because this is the countdown of the 20 worst. And here, what I'll do is this, because this really has nothing to do with it. Here we go. And I will, let me put my camera to where it should be. Okay. Off. There we go. Just like that. Perfect. Yep. That's where I can be. And so I'm going to be talking to each game that was one of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year. I'll be describing the game and why I felt it was one of the most disappointing, etc. Okay. Each one will have its own video clip playing behind me as we go through this list. So, oops. So I hope it works. I hope everything doesn't resize and screw up, you know? Why is the leaderboard moving? Because we figured out how to do it. It's called a scrolling filter. That allows you to scroll the leaderboard. You can see it all, and it doesn't ever look cluttered or whatever. It'll always scroll like that. Pretty cool. We do have top member donator up there, don't we? We do. We added it. Now we have top subs, top members gifted, top super chat, and top tip. We literally have every single contribution type now accounted for on the leaderboard. No matter what, you get your recognition. How cool is that? It's weird that the leaderboard doesn't go to the edge of the screen. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't. It's a little weird in that regard. I don't know, you know, I have no clue why, because it was supposed to stretch automatically to the edges of the screen, and then it stopped doing it. Once again, another weird thing that I can't really explain, and honestly, I don't even know how to do that. Let's see. What if I did... Okay, there we go. Right click. Because I right clicked. No, I didn't. Oh, great. Now it's fucked up. I'm serious. It looks like if you right click by accident on it when you're moving it, it permanently fucks it up. So here, let me delete it and re-add it again. And how much you want to bet this will screw everything up? There it is. Why can't I move it? I can't move it now. I'm serious. It won't let me edit it. It's like it's locked from editing and I can't edit it at all. It just sticks there now. See what I mean? I fucking am starting to really hate technology because I didn't do anything. It was working and now it won't work. And now I don't know how to fix it. Now it's going to be fucked up on every single screen. For some bizarre fucking reason, it does that. I don't get it. Like, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, I can't. Dude, this is nuts. I can't edit it. I can't even get it to go up or down now. What is going on? How do you undo? Undo. Okay. And then if I do... I can undo these at least. Okay. Yeah, I can't edit the leaderboard and I don't know why. So now I'm clicking on it so I can edit the text of it. Okay. But now when I go to click, nothing highlights anymore on my screen at all. It's like my screen got locked. I don't even know what happened. The leaderboard is not editable anymore. Why can't I edit the leaderboard? I'm fucked. I can't even move the leaderboard. I'm serious. I can't even move the leaderboard. It's locked there. What happens is in OBS, when you click on any source, okay, it's supposed to highlight the source on the screen. Like right now, if I click on webcam, wow, it's not allowing me to edit any source. So I can't even work. I can't do tonight's stream. I don't even know what's going on. It won't let me edit any source. What is it that makes it that you can't edit a source? Lock preview. Something locked the preview. I didn't lock the preview. All right. So anyway, what I was going to say earlier, see what I mean? It's fucking up. It's like doing things that I don't want it to do. It's locking the shit. So where's the leaderboard now? Here it is. Okay. So now we can maybe fix it. Go to where is it? Transform. Hit the screen. And then if I do this. See what it's doing? That's bizarre, is it not? What if I tell it to make the text smaller? Let me try something. Saying font of 72. What if I tell it font of, I don't know, 64? Oh, it's still too big. See that? It's like the font stays a certain size. What if I tell it I want font 50? Still shrink. See? I want it smaller than that. Or I got to keep going. I want font, I don't know, 36. No, it still fucks it up. I don't know. This is so weird. It's not shrinking the font, is it? I know. Someone told me to change it. I tried to change it. Now it's all fucked up. You're right. I want it to be to the edge of the screen, but I want it to be smaller font, and I can't figure it out. No matter what I do, it won't go any smaller. See that? If it shrinks it, now it makes it really shrink, which means it cuts off. I don't want it to cut off. So how do I get it to stay full screen, but not cut off? I don't know how to do that. I know I have technology luck. You're right. I have the worst technology luck on the planet. No matter what I try to do, it's all wrong. See, look at this now. Now it looks terrible. Now I can't get it to work because it won't go. How do I get it to the edges? How the fuck do I get it to go to the edges of the screen? Stretch to bounds. Look at that. It stretched it out to the bounds. But now it looks now the letters look chunkier. They're not as skinny. But it did fill it. So I guess that's progress. I guess this is progress. It still looks too big though. Oh. Oh no. Problem is for it to fit. See, it's just not right. It's just not right. I want it to be smaller. I don't want it to be stretched to fit. I just want it to be smaller. So I got to undo a bunch of shit. How do you undo? Control Z. Disgusted. I'm disgusted. Oh my God. I just can't get anything to work. You see what I mean? Like, this is my problem with technology. Now, look, now, obviously this didn't undo. Look, it's all fucked up. Everything's fucked up. I don't know. I give up. It won't allow me to not have the letters bigger and go further. Instead, it edits the line. It doesn't make any fucking sense at all. It makes zero fucking sense that it would be like this. And then it says bounding box size, crop to the bounding box. No one knows what the fuck that means. What is a bounding box? You ever heard of a bounding box before? I know I haven't, but I'm supposed to know what a bounding box is, apparently. I don't get it. If it stretches to bounds, now it's screwed up. See, because now it's the letters are wider. I don't like the wider letters. We could do it this way, and if you guys, if it's bothered by the wider letters, then we could change it. But at least this way, it fits. It's going across the whole screen. But now we got to fix this because this is all effed up. Again, look. I seriously can't even see it. It's too small to even see it. Means we can do it like that, but now the letters look crushed. Does that bother you? Does the letters looking like that bother you guys at all? Are you okay with that? You're okay with that? See, that bothers me because I've seen the skinny letters for so many years that legit bothers me. But if it doesn't bother you, we can leave it like that. We just got to fix this one then. What's weird is this doesn't actually transfer over to each scene. Each one I had to do individually. See what I mean? Like I had to do all three separate. Why? Why didn't it do it for all three scenes by itself? That's so weird. Well, we're gonna get started. Thank you, Sweaty Hex, for our first contribution of the night. I'm gonna start shout outs and everything in a second. The whole point of the leaderboard is shout outs for the King's Tax. Why would I separate the King's Tax from this leaderboard? That doesn't make any sense. Yes, the whole stream is me messing with this for sure, because I'm so upset. Well, whatever. I try to do something new, and of course now it's all messed up and I can't get it to work the way I want. And that's typical, isn't it? You try something new and different and exciting, and you know, it just pisses you off. Here we go. I got to go back down here. Okay. Turn that off for here. Okay. All right. I'm just going to go pee really quick, and I'm going to come back, explain the premise, and we're going to get started. Okay? Okay. Okay. So real fast, I just want to say shout out to Sweaty Hex, a $2 super chat to start the night off. And he says, have you tried Metaphor Refantazio, an amazing game? Yes, I did. I played it for 12 hours and almost beat the beta, or I should say the demo, because actually it was considered a full, like insanely large chunk of the game demo. And you can watch that right here on this channel. And I'll be talking about that playthrough in my year-end series here. Okay. Okay. Are we ready to start? So guys, if you contribute in any way during the show, whether it be, you know, YouTube side stuff, super chats, memberships, gifted memberships, whether it be kick stuff like subs and gifted subs, or whether it be tips, I will shout it out live. This is interactive, meaning even though I'm doing a countdown, I'm going to involve you guys. If you guys want to talk or tag me or say stuff about what I'm talking about, it should be good. All right. A good interactive, fun show. All right. I hope you guys will hang out with me here tonight. Ready? All right, here we go. Good evening, everyone. DSP here. And the year that we call 2024 has come to a close. We're actually a few days here into the new year of 2025. And it is at this time of year that I like to reminisce. I like to think back about the year that was and everything that we did in it. Now, particularly 2024 was a unique year. Why was it unique? Because in the 16 years that I have been a YouTuber making content for the internet, I'm going to be honest with all of you. I thought it was one of the most disappointing gaming years of all time. And it's various reasons why. Number one, in some cases, there was just a massive oversaturation of the market of a similar kind of game, making it impossible to really enjoy all of them. Number two, a lot of AAA big game releases that I felt like we all were excited for and we're going to just smash it either got delayed or came out and completely underwhelmed. Number three, out of all of the games that came out of the year, it actually was, in this case, a lot of the indie style games, the games that didn't have giant budgets or AAA studios behind them, that actually most impressed. And so I feel like 2024 was a shocking gaming year where you just could not actually predict what was going to be good, what you were going to be playing, what you were going to remember at the end. You know, during the course of the year, many people had said to me things such as, hey, Phil, what was your favorite game? What do you think will be your game of the year contenders? And by the end of the year, I was like, I don't even know. I legit don't even know. What I could say is some of the best stuff of this year. It was hard to have anything be remembered for more than just a month. And a lot of the stuff that was the best stuff was kind of samey, you know? It's sad when you think a major DLC for a game that was a game of the year contender or a lot of people's game of the year pick 2 years ago ends up being the best thing they've played this year. That's really weird. So this year I'm doing stuff a little different. Okay? Why? Because this year, I really don't think I want to talk about the most disappointing games. I don't think I want to talk about the best games. I want to talk about playthroughs. Because when you look at the stuff that went really well or not well for me this year in gaming, a lot of it had to do not with the games themselves, but the playthroughs in general. What playthroughs crushed it and were fun and lasted a long time and everyone enjoyed and we had engagement and support and everyone just in their heads are going to remember those playthroughs for a long time. Compare that to the playthroughs that were the most disappointing. Now, I want you to understand something. We're about to do the top 20 most disappointing gaming playthroughs of 2024. That doesn't mean these games are bad. It could, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the game is bad. And I will try to explain in each situation, okay, what I actually mean by that. So if I say, oh, this game is one of the most disappointing playthroughs, I'll tell you if the game is good, but why the playthrough was disappointing. You see? There may be situations where the games are great and the playthroughs were still disappointing. Vice versa, there might be situations where the game were just terrible, but maybe the playthrough was good. That could also happen, okay? So I'm excited to count these down with you. And in fact, we have 20. Yes, 20 of each. 20 of the most disappointing playthroughs and 20 of the best playthroughs of the year. And so, without further ado, I believe it is time to begin, shall we? All right, ladies and gentlemen, the number 20 most disappointing playthrough of the year for me was Path of Exile 2. And of course, you're going to see me in stereo in some of these cases, but just listen to my voice synced with me here in the bottom right corner and you'll know which is the real Phil. So, Path of Exile 2. You might say, Phil, I don't get it. Why would this be one of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year for you? Okay. Well, there's two major reasons why. All right. Reason number one, I like Diablo-esque games. I like games where you do this top-down perspective. You're doing all kinds of RPG elements, combat, skill trees, exploration, and the loot. The loot is so addicting in games like this. You know, you just want to keep playing and killing the monsters or enemies so that you can get more cool loot. And that's part of the gameplay loop that hooks you, right? Back in the day, I played Diablo 1 and 2 on PC. That's right. In the 90s, I actually was a PC gamer. And I loved Diablo 1 and 2. I thought that they were addictive, fun, really great gameplay experiences. But these games have never really translated well ever since I've been a YouTuber. I tried it with Diablo 3. I tried it last year with Diablo 4. And essentially, you know, when this game was coming out at the end of 2024, I was going to skip it. I had absolutely no intentions whatsoever to play this game. Okay? You guys convinced me to. People were like, no, if you miss out on Path of Exile 2, you're going to be missing out on one of the best games of the year. It's one of the most anticipated PC games in many, many years. You absolutely must play it. So I listened to your feedback and I said, all right, I'm going to bite the bullet. Let's get it. And I bought it. It's early access, by the way, although the game apparently is pretty much done. People are saying you could play it through and actually enjoy the entirety of the game. I made this lightning monk style class, as you can see here, and I was really enjoying the graphics. The game performed very well on my PC. The gameplay elements were getting more interesting the further in that I got. You know, at first it was just kind of basic punch and then charge up some abilities and use them. But then, as you can see, I started using chain lightning and I started using this ice ability that would slow down enemies. And it was actually getting better and better and better. But the problem with these games, which I believe they're called AARPGs, something like that. The problem with these RPGs is as follows. Fun to play, addictive to play, not necessarily fun to watch. And I think that's exactly what happened here. Even though I had warned all of you and I said, you know, I don't think this is going to work for a playthrough. Diablo 3 and 4 didn't work. So I don't think this is going to work. But people were like, no, Phil, you should try it anyway. We want to see you play it. So I bought it. I played it for one stinking stream. Guess what happened during the stream? Attendance dipped. People got disengaged. The support was bad. And I'm like, you know, that's kind of what I expected. It's unfortunate. I didn't want that to happen. I did my best. I tried to learn all the elements. I was trying to learn the class. The problem with a game like this is it's very attention demanding. Take a look. There's tons of enemies on the screen at once. They're all after you and can kill you if you're not careful. So you got to be paying attention. It's not a chill game or a laid back game in any way. You've got to be on your toes. Look at this. Enemies just come off the edges of the screen at any moment and you got to be ready for it. So unlike a lot of other playthroughs where we could either relax or have some social interaction, sadly, this one didn't turn out like that. And it just ended up flopping. You know, I now haven't, to this date, I haven't played it again. Even though I bought the game, I haven't played it a second time. And to be honest, guys, no one's asked me for it. Like, no one's really, you know, saying, hey, what about Path of Exile 2 that you started? Are you ever going to continue it? Like, I don't think anyone's even said that to me. So it's sad because it's a game that I like. It plays like classic Diablo, which I enjoy, but the playthrough just didn't resonate with the audience, and that's why it makes it disappointing for me. Okay? It's not that the game's bad in any way, shape, or form. I like it, but hey, I got to play stuff that's going to resonate with my audience, correct? Okay. Number 19, most disappointing playthrough of the year. A game that most of you most likely do not remember even existed. It is called Silent Hill: The Short Message. So for those who did not watch me play it, this was relatively early on in 2024. It was actually a free game. All right. Now, the reason that it was hype at the time was because at this time, Silent Hill 2 Remake hadn't come out. And we were all looking forward to and craving Silent Hill content. We all wanted more Silent Hill content. When this was announced that it was going to be a free game that was coming out and you're going to be able to be sucked back into the world of Silent Hill and all of its survival horror, but that it was going to be a first-person game that had, you know, exploration element and a deep story, it was very intriguing. Hey, this sounds good to me. Plus, it's free. So when it's a free game, it's like you can't really get too upset, correct? Why would you get upset if it's free? When I started playing it, I actually really liked it. Like the beginning of the game, I felt was very, very interesting. It had this whole mystery aspect of, are the people or the girls involved in this storyline alive or dead? What really happened at this school? You know, what is hell going on? Is this girl trapped in Silent Hill or a parallel dimension? Or, you know, plus there actually aren't many or any enemies until nearly the end of the game. So it actually makes you feel like a slow build towards actual risk of something that's going to be coming after you. So here's the deal. I would argue first 2 hours out of this 3.5 hour experience are pretty good. However, the critical flaw in this game is the final 45 minutes, because in the final 45 minutes, they send you on a crazy chase. Now, I don't think that I actually caught that here. Actually, I did. Here it is. Wow, I grabbed the right video. So, in this final 45 minutes, as you can see, number one, the game's performance dips. You're in this crazy chase where the enemy is after you constantly, and you have to be running around perfectly, because if not, the enemy will grab you, and then you have to start the whole chase over. But the graphics start to dip, and the frame rate starts to suffer. At the critical moment when you need it to be the best, it actually starts to suffer, and that's unfortunate. Now, the problem is you have to run through this maze-like area. You have no idea where you are because there's no map. So you're just trying to get your bearings. If you make a wrong turn, oops, the enemy grabs you. You got to start completely over. Like, you literally have to keep moving at all times. If you stop, this enemy can grab you, and then you're starting over. The problem is, in this area, you have to grab a ton of stuff. You have to end up grabbing items and all kinds of things in this area. And if you don't grab them in the right order, guess what? You can't make progress. So what this ends up actually being is you, through trial and error, multiple times failing, okay? Basically, you have to keep trying over and over. And it becomes this tedious, endless loop. And it's very boring. It's frustrating. It's like, why is it like this? The rest of the game wasn't like this. It was actually better. This last sequence, no, don't get me wrong. The last sequence is creepy because there's finally a monster coming after you trying to kill you. But it is so tedious and the gameplay is just so outdated. Do you really want to redo this area over and over and over? Well, guess what? It took me nearly 45 minutes to beat this final segment. If I had known exactly where to go and what order to do it in, I probably would have beaten it in 5 minutes. But instead, I had to redo it and redo it and redo it and redo it. Very frustrating for anyone trying to beat this game after having sunk about 2 to 3 hours into it up to that point. And then lastly, on top of all of that, without spoiling the ending, it's a cliffhanger ending that doesn't truly explain how the game ended. So just think of it this way. You are investing all of this time, all of this effort to beat this final chase. You're getting so frustrated because you die a bunch of times, you have to keep redoing it. And then you get to the ending that you've earned, your big deserved reward, and it's not a clear ending. You don't actually know what happened, and the game just ends and the credits roll, and it's incredibly disappointing. If anything, I've said this before, and I'll say it many, many more times, I'm sure, in the future. When you're investing your time into a game, especially if it's a game that's challenging or seems like you've gone through a journey, you want to have a good ending. You cannot have a wish-washy ending, and this game has the ultimate unspecific wish-washy ending. It's very disappointing, and it makes you feel like, man, maybe I shouldn't have spent the last 3.5 hours playing it, even if it was free, because it doesn't feel like they really put the effort in to give it an ending that was worth your time. Very frustrating, and it just stacked up to be one of the most disappointing games after I beat it, because I was like, man, I wish that I kind of had done anything else. I feel like maybe I would have had a better use of my time rather than wasting 3.5 hours. What's up, everyone? I see a lot more people have joined the stream. Welcome to anyone who is joining here in progress. These are the top 20 most disappointing playthroughs of 2024, and we got through the first 2. Ready to continue? Retro Danny says it reminded me of PT. I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of these survival horror games that are first person are basically trying to emulate what PT did. You know, PT was the innovator and everyone else kind of chased behind PT, which is funny because PT was just a playable teaser that never actually sold for anything. But yeah, definitely those kind of vibes. Okay, shall we continue? All right. My number 18 most disappointing playthrough of the year was Marvel Rivals. Now you might say, wait, what? Marvel Rivals? Marvel Rivals is like the hottest game right now. Marvel Rivals has record numbers of players on Steam. People are playing the heck out of it, really loving it. And honestly, it's a pretty good game. It's basically classic Overwatch style gameplay. The only difference being, as you can see, it's third person rather than first person, and it stars Marvel characters and properties. So why would Marvel Rivals stack up to be one of my most disappointing playthroughs of the year? Well, first off, I played it twice. I first played this game during the summertime when it had an open beta, and I actually liked it during the open beta. Then I came back to it later in the year when it had a full release in December, and I was having a good time with it. I liked playing all the different characters. I liked messing around with the different mechanics. I thought that the different Marvel aspects of it were actually quite neat. And although, I'll be honest, in some cases, I feel certain characters weren't really representative of what they are in the Marvel universe, i.e. like Magneto, who in this game is very different from how he would, you know, used in a comic book. But basically, I really enjoyed it. And so, why is it disappointing? Because both times I played it, both in the summer and at the end of the year, I basically got initial interest where people were showing up and liking it and engaging with it and supporting it for a couple streams, maybe like 2 to 3 streams each. And then when I got to about the 10-hour gameplay mark, I noticed a distinct, not necessarily boredom, but stagnation. People got to a point where they were like, we've seen enough. Every time you play, even though you're using different characters, it's not really that different. It's just Overwatch. Now listen, I'll admit it has an incredible amount of similarities to Overwatch, okay? But it's good still. Like, it doesn't mean that it's bad. I mean, Overwatch, when it was at its prime in 2016, 2017, was one of the biggest games on the planet. It won Game of the Year at the Game of the Year Awards. People were having merchandise in the mainstream. I mean, hell, I'm not even kidding you. I had a car sunshade that said Overwatch. It was so popular, you could just buy it at a normal store. You know, it was on the level of games like Minecraft and stuff like that. Or I guess you would say, or Fortnite today. So then why does no one talk about Fortnite anymore? Excuse me. Why does no one talk about Overwatch anymore? Well, because Activision Blizzard ran it into the ground and ruined it. And now very few people talk about it or play it compared to what was like, 7, 8 years ago. So in the case of this, Marvel Rivals, this is a game that takes those great things from Overwatch and then on top of that applies flashy graphics and a really good Marvel, IP and combines it into a winning formula. So then why on earth won't people watch me play it? Why do people complain that it's boring, repetitive, and why do people not support? Don't really know, except people just say it's too much like Overwatch. So maybe in this case, it just really is a little bit too much. At the same time, when I look at this, I'm like, I feel like the game would have been better in first person, just being honest. Like, I think the third person aspect was their excuse to say they didn't blatantly copy Overwatch, even though it's apparent they actually did. But basically, I think the game is fun, and I'm disappointed because I actually was having fun picking new characters. As you can see, I was picking characters like Iron Fist or Venom or Scarlet Witch or Hawkeye, and I was enjoying learning these new characters and how to play with them. And at the end there, I had actually adjusted to keyboard and mouse, and I was actually getting even better with keyboard and mouse. And then I just had a stream where no one cared. And I was like, well, I can't continue to play a game that no one cares about. It's sad. So again, at least this one lasted like 12 hours each time that I played it. But man, just to be honest, again, this is very similar to Path of Exile, where I liked the game. I wanted to keep playing it. It didn't resonate with the audience. And I got to do what my audience tells me. I'm here to be an interactive live streamer. I'm not here to just stream for myself. I got to play games you guys are going to show up for and enjoy. In the case of Marvel Rivals, sadly, that only lasted about 10 hours, and then I had to move on. Retro Danny says, Marvel Rivals gives me good memories of the original Overwatch. I'm still salty that Activision Blizzard ran it to the ground. Yeah, I know. I remember original Overwatch. It was quite good, wasn't it? It really was a great game, and it's sad that it ended up being what it was after just a couple of years. Too many changes, too many, things giving into whiny players, and then, of course, Overwatch League, and that dictated how the game was going to go progress and play with new content and stuff. And yeah, it's just sad. Okay. Let's continue on, my friends. Up next, number 17, most disappointing playthrough of 2024 was, you may not even know what this is yet. You ready? The campaign of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. All right. I was so disappointed by the campaign for a couple of reasons. Number one, a lot of people had told me that it was good. And I was like, oh, if it's good, then I can't wait. I can't wait to play this campaign. Call of Duty usually is one of the biggest bang for your buck packages of any game all year. You get your single player campaign, you get your multiplayer, you get your zombies, you get your battle royale in Warzone, and all of that is varied and different. And so, that's a great amount of content for $60. In this case, now I guess it's $70. And this year it was on Game Pass. It's like, so what's to lose, right? So I played the campaign. The whole first 45 minutes is a puzzle. They literally throw you into a mansion, which is your new base of operations. And they're like, here's a puzzle to solve. Now, you don't have to solve it, but obviously if it's thrown in your face, here it is, you want to solve it. So I ended up 45 minutes trying to solve this puzzle with black lights and secret codes and things like that. And then they throw you into the game. And what's the first level? Stealth, where you're creeping around like Hitman or the character from Dishonored. And you're trying to not get detected and to take down a few guys, but basically not cause a ruckus. Everything that's like the antithesis of Call of Duty. Oh yeah, here's the level that I wanted to show you. Doesn't this look like Call of Duty to you? Yeah, when you're like James Bond and you're going undercover into presidential, political rallies and you're committing espionage and stuff. Yeah, that's Call of Duty, right? The weirdest part about it is once you get through these parts and later on you actually get to parts that have gunplay in them, the gunplay sucks. The gunplay is boring and repetitive. And listen, I understand that it's Call of Duty, right? You know, Call of Duty is meant to just be kind of a run and gun game. But I'll be honest, I've played the campaigns of most of these. I didn't play last year's Modern Warfare 2 because I heard it was atrociously bad. Or was it Modern Warfare 3? Whichever last year's was. But I played pretty much every campaign up to now. I tried, guys. I really tried playing this campaign. I couldn't stand it. I was literally falling asleep, so bored playing this game that I just didn't care. I just can't play it anymore. So I quit it. Again, something that I was told by so many people was good. And then when I went to test it, it's like every single thing that doesn't feel like Call of Duty. And then when it gets to the parts that are like Call of Duty, they're incredibly repetitive and boring, uninspired, no real interesting set pieces or anything. Instead, it was just like, what happened here? So, big disappointment for me. You know, when I bought the Call of Duty package, I was hoping to respectfully get, you know, content out of all of it. And I'm never going back to the campaign. It just sucked. I don't know what else to say. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people liked it and disagree with me, but that's my opinion. Okay? Okay. The number 16 most disappointing playthrough of 2024, Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga. Or was it Senua's Sacrifice? Or was it Senua? Does anyone even remember? And I think this is the point that I want to make. When they said they were making a sequel to Hellblade, I think people got excited. Well, Hellblade was an original game for Xbox One. The graphics at the time were absolutely outstanding. It had an interesting visual style, a bunch of cool puzzles and combat, simple, but still interesting and fun. And it had a very unique perspective where the main character probably has some level of mental illness, hallucinating things, hearing voices in her head. And so you have to ask, what is really going on? Is anything you're seeing real, or is this all in her head? Poor Senua could be suffering a mental breakdown right now. Like right now, this orb that she's putting into a stand, is this real? Is she imagining this? You don't know. Are you even going to ever get answers for that? Probably not, okay? So the first game, Hellblade 1, was great for the time. Hellblade 2 came out in 2024 on the Xbox Series S and X, and here, this is representative of me playing it on the Xbox Series X for the record. As you can see, outside of the lighting elements, do you notice something? First off, the game is locked at 30 frames per second. That is insanely stupid. If this is supposed to be a truly next-gen game, this is supposed to be a flagship title for Microsoft under their umbrella, you need the game to perform up to standard, and it doesn't. Running at only 30 frames per second is completely unacceptable in 2024. The game should have been running at 60. I don't care about how much lighting and the detail. It has to run at 60 frames to be considered a viable, top-tier style game, and it doesn't. Number two, sadly, the game just didn't do enough to really impress or innovate. In fact, if you play this one compared to the first one, it's almost the same. There's a few distinct differences. For example, there's some big boss fights. However, the boss fights just kind of water down to very simple puzzles rather than actual challenging, interesting fights. And once again, in regards to the gameplay elements and the story, it's pretty much just another version of the first game. They don't really innovate. There's nothing really added that's so different or groundbreaking. It kind of feels like you're just continuing on with the first game. This very well could have been sold as a DLC or presented as one for the first game. I don't think anyone would have noticed the difference. And in fact, I think that's the most notable thing. You know, the first Hellblade game came out so many years ago. This one just came out last year. And do you see major upgrade in the graphics? No. And the graphics are what the first game was mostly known for. Let's also be honest. Do you see anything too groundbreaking with the game or the actor's performance? No, it's pretty standard, right? She won Performer of the Year. Why? Why would the Game Awards award her Performer of the Year for a subpar game, a subpar story, and it just felt like it was a carbon copy of the first? Like, what happened? I don't know. So this was a game that I was so disappointed in. I was actually hyped for it. I really liked Hellblade 1. And I thought it was going to be more of that same level of greatness. And instead, it just kind of fizzled and fell on its face and just wasn't that good. Okay. Continuing on, folks. My number 15 most disappointing playthrough of the year was... Oh, that's right. I know you guys are probably going to be like, what? Multiverses. Okay? So, for the record, Multiverses is a game that actually was out years ago in early access slash beta, right? When the game finally had a full release this year, a lot of people were questioning whether it was going to be well received and was it going to be a good game or not. I was one of them. You know, I liked Multiverses many years ago. What was it, like 2.5 years ago when it was in that open state? I actually liked the variety of characters that were in it, their different play styles. I just found it very enjoyable. So what happened with Multiverses when it came out was that you had two distinct groups of people. Some people were curious to see this is going to be a full release game that was going to be worth playing. And others just immediately said, well, we already saw this 2 years ago. We know exactly what the game is. And they feel like it's just a kind of a knockoff of Smash Brothers that will never live up to the level of competitive gameplay or hype of Smash Brothers. And therefore, they just immediately wrote it off and said, it sucks. So for me, I landed somewhere in the middle because I was definitely curious with the final release of these new characters, such as you can see the Banana Guard and Jason Voorhees. You know, were they going to be good? Were they going to significantly change the way the game was played? You know, it was going to be pretty exciting. When it released, I did play it a good amount. And immediately I noticed some distinct changes to the game that I didn't like. As you can see, this weird color filter over teams. I didn't understand what they were doing with this. And I actually believe what happened is they fixed it. And now this color filter is gone or toned down because everyone complained that it was way too strong and very, very like annoying. No one liked this color filter. In addition, the game played decently, but it had some lag issues for sure. I wish that it didn't have as many lag issues. But for the most part, it played pretty similarly, I would say, to the original from a couple years ago, the early access that is, with a few distinct disappointments. For example, one of my favorite characters of that early release was Velma, and Velma is absolutely terrible in this final version of the game. They nerfed the living crap out of her to the point where, like, there's no point in her even being in the game. That's how bad she actually is. Now, lucky for me, certain characters like Bugs Bunny, who was one of my other big favorites, actually is quite good in the final release. But again, the problem here was a game like this is going to require a lot of time investment to learn how to play it. There's a lot of character selection. You know, this is sounding familiar, kind of like Marvel Rivals, where you got to play different characters, learn, take time to learn and get good and stuff like that. And guess what happened? I basically played it twice. And by the time that I wanted to play it a third time, everyone said, stop playing this game. It's just a Smash Brothers knockoff. It's just another game that plays similarly to another game. It's not very good. Drop it. And you know what? I'll be honest. I wish that people had been more open-minded because I think I would have liked it if I had tried more characters and played it longer. It just seems like with my audience, either a game immediately resonates and is a hit, or people just don't like it at all. And sadly, that's what happened with this game, just like Marvel Rivals, where I was enjoying it. I wanted to try new characters. I was having a good time. But after a couple of streams, everyone got bored with it, okay? So what's funny about it, though, is that apparently the game did not do well. Someone even just said they just checked right now. Only 700 people are playing this game on Steam. It has completely and utterly failed, and no one is playing it. That's pretty bad for a game that had this kind of a hype and budget put behind it. All these IPs were purchased and licensed to be in the game. The fact that this game right now is a failure and no one's really talking about it or playing it is pretty darn sad. So, Multiverses came up a flop. It sucks because there was 2.5 years of anticipation and I was very excited for it, but sadly it didn't resonate. And again, another one that ended up getting dropped because people just didn't like it. Brian asked, do you think that game devs deserve a second chance so they can sort out a game like this after release? Listen, in this game, it's free. You didn't pay anything for it. So I'm down with the game coming out and having issues that they want to tweak and get better because it's free. Now, if you paid $70 for that game and it came out unfinished, wonky, and messed up, then you've had a problem. But the fact that it's free, I don't really have too many complaints. I think that it was a good game. I really do. Okay. Retro Danny says he agrees the color filter was annoying and also he didn't like that certain characters were nerfed. So there you go. Okay. All right, folks. Up next, the number 14 most disappointing game playthrough of the year for me. That's right. I think you recognize it. Dragon Age: The Veilguard. For someone who liked all of the Dragon Age games up to now, including Origins, 2, Inquisition, this game I actually got hyped for. because it's been so long, nearly a decade since the last Dragon Age game came out. And we heard so much about it over the years and then just kind of absolutely nothing, right? It was like radio silent for a while. And so all of a sudden, there started to be a blitz of information in the last like 6 to 8 months about this game. Like, uh-oh, this is so weird that we heard nothing. Now all of a sudden, everything at once, does that mean something bad, right? Now, incidentally, a viewer of mine wanted to see me try this game so badly, they freaking donated a PS5 Pro for me to play it on. Didn't need a PS5 Pro because I had a gaming PC by then, but they really wanted to see me try out this game on there to see how it would perform. To be honest, as you can see, it performs really well. This game actually runs incredibly well on the PS5 Pro. I didn't have any issues with frame drops or graphics. I think actually its strongest suit was actually the graphics, that they were so good that I was really enjoying that aspect of the game. But my problem with Dragon Age the Veilguard is very simple. It is an incredibly slow-moving, snail's-paced game. I probably played it for around 15 hours, maybe 20, and I couldn't even tell you what was going on with the story. Let's see. 2 elven gods were released from some kind of alternate dimension, and they were trying to take over the world, and you were just working with allies to try to stop them, except literally in the first 20 hours, you do absolutely nothing to stop them. You end up doing side quests, busy work, and filler content that have nothing to do whatsoever with your end goals of the plot. So what you're telling you is this game's going to be like 100 hours long. You're going to spend 80 of those hours not actually doing the main story. Is that okay? Well, I guess if the story was engaging and immersive or whatever. But for me, I found it hard to even remember what I was doing in certain areas. The map kind of sinks into other areas, and so it kind of all blends together because it all is kind of a seamless world, which could usually work, except in this case, you end up stumbling upon another quest, and then another half of a quest, and then a boss challenge here, and then this here. And half the time, you don't even know what you're doing or if you're doing the right thing for the quest you were trying to do or not, and it just ends up this kind of endless time sink. In fact, I would almost argue that is the best way that this game could be described. It's a time sink. If you're looking for a game where you can just kind of gel and not really care about what you're doing, but you want some flashy graphics, some interesting gameplay elements, and screw the story, that's good. That's Dragon Age the Veilguard. But if you're there for a riveting, gripping storyline, it's just not there, at least not in the first 20 hours. And I'm sorry, I'm just not going to keep sinking time into a game where I just don't know what's going on and I'm bored. You know, and that's the problem ultimately is the gameplay loop's addictive, the graphics are good, but the story is boring. Do you want a boring story in a 100-hour RPG? It's pretty much going to be a major focus of the game. So why the holy heck is the story so boring? Now, I'm well aware that this game also has elements that are incredibly leftist-leaning politically and culturally. Apparently, there's this big woke moment that we all watched and reacted to on my podcast at one point. And to be honest, I wish that that wasn't in there because a lot of people have written the game off because of that content, okay? For me, I've been saying this recently, keep politics out of my games. I don't want politics or culture wars in my games. I just want my games to be fantasy so I can unplug from reality and have a good time in a game. I don't want to play boot up a game and be like, oh, now I got to deal with people saying that this person is trans and that's bad or good. Is this person represented well? Do you remember the pronouns? It's a fantasy video game. I want to escape from all the chaos of reality and not have to think about any of that shit when I'm playing the game. So the game misses the mark when it tries to shove those kind of topics down your throat. Now, I am happy to report, again, in the 20 hours that I played, I didn't encounter any of that content. It must be further into the game. So I'm glad that at the very least it's not shoved down your throat at the beginning. But still, the fact that it's in there, you knew it was going to be a thing of contention. And the thing is, the game devs do it too. I think that BioWare, in this case, wanted the game to be talked about no matter what. And they were possibly afraid that if they didn't put that kind of content in the game, maybe people would say it was kind of a subpar game and wouldn't care about it and wouldn't talk about it. So they had to wedge that stuff in to get it to be the hot topic about the game and cause controversy around it so that people would discuss it. And it worked. People absolutely discussed this game for about a month. And now it's as if it never existed. You could get it for a very deep discount everywhere. And it's sad because for a game that has like 100 hours of content and looks this good, you would think that the effort would have been put in all around. But sadly, it looks like the gameplay was the focus, not the story. If you don't have a good story in a game that's a role-playing game, hence, you know, you want to play the role of a character in a fantasy setting and, you know, live their story. Well, if I don't care about their story, then your RPG has failed. And that's the main problem with Dragon Age the Veilguard, no one really cares about the characters, so why play the game? That's why I dropped it. I was so bored, I just didn't want to continue. Okay, so I have a couple shout outs to do, and then we're going to continue with our countdown. Thank you to the following couple of people. So we start with a $20 tip from Mars Inhabitant. There's a $1 donation for every disappointing game. There you go. So $20 because there's 20 disappointing games. Well, it's actually 20 disappointing playthroughs. Because as I've already stated, some of these games I liked. Marvel Rivals, I wasn't disappointed by that game. Sadly, I was disappointed by the reception that it got as a playthrough. So a little bit of a different situation. Thank you, Mars Inhabitant, for the $20 tip. However, you might be thinking, well, that's our top tip, right? No, it is not. No, it is not. Because, ladies and gentlemen, oops, was that 22? I think it was 22, right? So now I think we're at 22. I received another tip, a $50 tip from Lisa Lou. Thank you so much to Lisa Lou for a $50 tip tonight. Thank you for your contribution and for supporting my content and, of course, your end series. Appreciate that very, very much. Let's go ahead and get Lisa Lou on the leaderboard. So now we are about halfway to our goal for the night, my friends. Thank you so much for the support. 72 out of the 150 goal. Remember, if we hit the goal, counts towards our rewards, and then we get rewards sooner. All right? Cool. Excellent. Thank you so much to Mars Inhabitant and to Lisa Lou. All right, continuing on here. I guess we're playing this again, are we? No, we are not. Absolutely not. Our next most disappointing playthrough of the year. The 13th most disappointing playthrough was Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero free 0-calorie cola. Is it just me, or did Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero sound like a low-calorie beverage? It totally did to me. Like, that's what I thought it was. The name is just such a bizarre name, okay? All right. So why Dragon Ball Sparking Zero? Why is this on the countdown of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year? By the way, good evening, Jade. Good to see you. And good evening, Bookworm. He says, the ticker-style contributions bar is growing on him. Cool. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so why? Why this game? Why this countdown? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because I haven't played a Dragon Ball game in many years. I played a few. I played Kakarot. I played Xenoverse 1 and 2. And I may have even played one more years ago. I know I played Dragon Ball Fighters as well. Their actual 2v2 2D fighting game, okay? And I say, well, why then was I not interested in this one? Because every time that there's a Dragon Ball game, it's literally the same story. You relive the same classic events where Goku and his friends are trying to defend the world from invading enemies like Vegeta and Nappa, and then it turns into the Frieza saga and the Cell saga and the Android saga and the freaking Boo saga, and the same stuff. And I've now relived that plot line so many times. I'm just not that interested in it anymore. As a kid when I was growing up, I loved Dragon Ball anime. But I just don't see the appeal of living the same events over 7,000 times. So when this game was coming out, people sold me on it and said, no, Phil, you don't understand. The campaign of this game is very different. This campaign is actually going to be you doing what-if scenarios where you can actually do things differently than they actually happened in the real anime. And therefore, you could see alternate scenarios. Well, that was definitely present. Problem was the game didn't explain how to do it. So half the time, you'd get these scenarios by accident, and then realize you played yourself into a corner and had to replay a stage repetitively over and over to unlock another scenario to continue on with the game. That's frustrating. Sadly, it's pretty outdated game design. I don't really know what they were going for there. So by the time that I had grinded through and finally completed Goku's plot line, I was so exhausted, I wasn't too interested in doing any others, okay? Now, you want to talk about the online play? Well, you're seeing a bit of it right here. The game has an insanely large roster of characters. And the way that it works is essentially you are making a balanced team. Each character has a ranking number. So you could pick a very powerful character, but that character has a high ranking number, meaning you're going to be able to pick less characters than, say, if you pick the team with all 5 low-ranked characters. I compare this to the team-based system that they used in the Capcom versus SNK series many, many years ago, where you could have like a rank 1 or ratio 1, ratio 2 character, but then you could have a team of 4 ratio 1s or only 1 ratio 4. So it's kind of a similar premise. The problem is, none of it really matters, because once you get online and you start playing, all the combat looks just like this. Basically, everyone just goes at each other and spams. And yes, there is some strategy to it. Don't get me wrong. There's different classes of characters. There's faster characters. There's more projectile trapping characters. There's more tankish characters. I'm actually using a tankish character in this video, a giant robot that has super armor, okay? But ultimately, it's an incredibly simplistic game. Does it have nuances to the control scheme? Yes. But here's what it basically boils down to. Attack, attack, attack until someone presses an escape button. Then they try to counterattack you, but then you can do your own escape. And that's it. I'm not kidding. That's the game. Like, it's just attack, counterattack, counterattack, counterattack. Oops, we're all out of energy. Got to run away and recharge and then go at each other again. There definitely is a higher level strategy to it. But the point I'm making here is it's just not a very fun fighting game, which is essentially what you're trying to do is make a game that has elements that are fun. And it just becomes kind of a real repetitive experience. And here's the other part that's really stupid. You would think in a game like this, right? You'd want to pick the powerful characters. But no, the best way to play this game online was to pick a team of weaker characters who basically can do good combos and just drag it out. I mean, hell, I played this game a grand total of twice online. Ladies and gentlemen, I won the vast majority of the matches, and a lot of them, I didn't even know what happened. I didn't know how I won. And then people would explain to me, well, Phil, you had a team of low-ranked characters and time expired, so because you had 3 characters alive and they only had 1, you won. And I was like, yeah, but literally they spanked me. They were kicking my ass the whole time. No, you won. You have more health. What? It didn't even make sense. The online play just doesn't make sense unless you sit there and study it. But here's the thing, and here's what I was saying at the time that the game came out. The game really feels like a masher. It totally does. It feels like a button masher. And when you're playing a button masher, you're going to play it as a party game, right? You're going to team up with your friends. You're going to jump into it, mess around with the various characters for a little bit. And after you mess it around as a party game, you're probably never going to pick it up and touch it ever again. But so many people when the game released were like, oh, it's going to be a competitive fighter. You've got to invest time in it and all of that. But that's never happened. Like, did you know that within 1 month of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero came out, they lost over 90% of the player base? Did you hear what I just said? I'm going to repeat myself. You ready? Over 90% of the player base quit this game within 1 month. That is not the sign of a game that was made to be competitive. That is not the sign of a healthy game. That is the sign of a game that ultimately was a party game. Everyone bought it, played it a little bit, got bored, never went back. And that's sad. I feel like it would have been a better game if they had sound mechanics, if they had a team-based structure that made sense, but they weren't going for that. They were kind of going for a dream match. Every character possible in there. Who cares if it's balanced? Let everything murder each other. A lot of people said, well, this is very similar to the original Dragon Ball Budokai experience. Well, if anything, can we just agree on something then? Maybe Dragon Ball Budokai was made in the past for a reason. It's outdated. It's not a formula that really works in 2024 when people are looking for a game that's going to have bang for your buck value, competitive edge in nature. It just doesn't have any of those things. So because of that, 90% of the people are going to play it once or twice and quit it out. I mean, I think that's a bigger player fall off than Mortal Kombat 1 had, quite frankly. So, yeah, sorry to say, a game that I had high expectations for. You guys hyped me up for it, and it really let me down. I honestly wish that the game had been a lot better than it was, and that I would have played it more than I had. I only played through the campaign once and online once or twice, and I was done with it, and no one seemed to care. That's the other funny part, too. It's like, oh, maybe Phil, like, prematurely quit the game, but in this case, only maybe 1 or 2 people ever mentioned it ever again. So, pretty disappointing. I think now you're definitely starting to see the pattern here. Either it's games that I really liked but somehow didn't resonate with the audience, or games that the audience thought was going to be great, but then when I actually bought them and played them, they ended up not being very good at all, right? So pretty big disappointments. Dio says, my nephew had his parents pay something like $80 to get the special version of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Played it twice. Went back to playing free mobile games. Never touched it ever again. Wow. Okay, let's continue on. The most disappointing playthroughs countdown of 2020. Here we go. 2024. Number 12 is, yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, Dragon's Dogma 2. A game that I was pretty hyped for, because many years ago, I had played Dragon's Dogma 1, and actually really ended up enjoying it. I had played the crap out of this game. I grinded offline to get better at it, and then I recorded my progress as an offline YouTuber back then. This was before I was a live streamer. I liked the fact that you could have these created characters called pawns that people from all across the globe had actually created, and they could join your party. I liked the world structure with all the towns and all the different things that you could do. The open world, we could jump on enemies and take them out with co-op gameplay mechanics and the like. There was just a lot to like about Dragon's Dogma. The problem is that Dragon's Dogma came out over a decade ago. Okay? If you're going to make a modern game in 2024, well, you've got to pretend like the last decade has happened. Dragon's Dogma 2 acts like the last decade never happened. An incredibly flawed graphical performance. As you can see here, this is the Xbox Series X version running at the absolute highest graphics, and it's choppy as hell. It's just not acceptable. The game has an open world that's very similar to the first game. The game has pawns like the first game. And essentially, if you're playing Dragon's Dogma 2, the one fatal flaw is pretty simple. It's basically the first game again. Even graphically, it looks like the first game. And that's not a good thing. Things have advanced and changed and gotten much, much better in the last decade. Why were none of those interesting improvements added to the game? Why are they acting like this game came out a year after the first Dragon's Dogma? The fact that they charge full price for it also is just disappointing. You know, if they had sold it as like a $30, $40 game, maybe I would have forgiven some of its shortcomings, but they're selling it as if it's a full-fledged sequel. It's not. And the funny part about it is the game came out, people talked about it for about a week, and then it's like it never existed. Like, I don't remember, no one talked about it again. Everyone just kind of gave up on it. So, yeah, pretty disappointing, quite frankly. It was a game that I was very much looking forward to because I really liked the first one, but I'm sorry, if you're not going to make any gameplay improvements and even graphical improvements in a decade, your game's just inferior. No one's going to want to play it. And, this was a case where people got bored of the playthrough, but I was bored long before. I was willing to try to tough it out if people liked it, but everyone was bored with it, including me, and that's why we dropped it. If I'm going to continue to play a game and invest a bunch of time in it, it has to be a game that on both sides we're both enjoying, and this was sadly just one that neither side was enjoying. Dragon's Dogma 2 was a humongous and utter disappointment, I feel, to the RPG community because, again, the first one innovated, and this one just did more of the same of the first. So, there you have it. And so, we are nearing the end of our first 10 most disappointing playthroughs. What could possibly be on the list next? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's Dragon's Dogma 2 because it's so bad I included it twice. No. Up next, the number 11 most disappointing playthrough of 2024 was Star Wars: The Battlefront Collection. Ladies and gentlemen, I loved the Star Wars Battlefront games back in the 2000s. They were classics, and I actually played them on PC. While a lot of people had actually played them on consoles, I played the full-fledged PC versions, which were great games for the time. Being able to select a class of character that is very different. Whether you have the person who's shooting rockets or the sniper or someone with a full auto gun, sneaking around in stealth and doing takedowns and stuff from behind. Pretty good. So when they announced that they were re-releasing these original Battlefront games in a collection, I got pretty stoked. And I was pretty excited for it. And then when it came out, what you're seeing is what we got. A game that ran incredibly buggy, very bad frame rate in parts, very poor performing, which makes no sense. The games are old. Why are they performing poorly on modern hardware? The game was absolutely full of bugs, unfinished messes, things phasing in and out of existence, getting stuck in walls, having all kinds of problems. It really was disappointing because they hyped it up like it was going to be these games getting more attention. But instead, they were horrible versions of the games. Don't get me wrong. Battlefront 1 and 2 are great games. Okay? They are. They're outstanding. but I'd like you to take a look at how this game performs. This is not, oh, this is running choppy. This is how the game ran and looked on modern hardware. It's feels like an unfinished port, right? Like they ported it badly and chugging along. Again, bugs and graphical issues. There was entire times where walls wouldn't load or you get stuck in a wall. And the funny part was, even with as buggy as it was, I still had fun with it. You want to know why? Because the games are that good. Like Battlefront 1 and 2 are legitimately great games. So even though these were far inferior versions of said games, I still had a great time playing them. It's just a shame that if they were going to make a modern collection, they couldn't actually do the games justice. For people who never played the originals and only played these, you might think, oh man, what a wonky mess. Now, yes, the game did have some wonkiness to it, and that was part of its charm. But man, the original games were actually much better versions than this modern one that they sold us. So pretty disappointing. And quite frankly, this game pretty much died after like 3 weeks. I tried to keep playing it, but less and less people wanted to play it because it just was such a mess that wasn't really improving or getting any kind of notable patches or fixes. So because of that, people were like, well, I don't even want to really play it anymore. And so the player base fell off. Jade even just said in chat, yeah, I got sick watching you play this. I don't blame you. When the frame rate is all over the place like this game was, if it can't just be smooth and consistent, you're going to have issues with, with that kind of stuff and give you a headache, right? You're trying to play, oh, my eyes are burning. I can't even pay attention because the game's just not smooth enough. So pretty big disappointment. Again, you're going to sell a collection that's supposed to present these classic games to a new audience. Put the effort in. They obviously didn't. They obviously just wanted to rush out a botched port job. And that's just very, very unfortunate. I feel like they should have done a better job. Okay. I'm in Seattle tonight, by the way, live broadcasting from above Seattle. I'm actually in a helicopter broadcasting. Okay. Retro Danny says the classic Star Wars Battlefront games were my favorite. I love Star Wars Battlefront 2. It was badass. The first game was good too, but I like the second one more. Well, the second one had more of the focus on the heroes, right? The heroes were much better in the second game, and it had more game modes too. Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first half of my most disappointing game playthroughs of 2024 countdown. In part 2, we get down to the nitty gritty. Get top 10 worst playthrough. So I hope you'll stick around. If you're watching here on stream, thanks for being a great audience. The first half is about to end. If you're watching on YouTube, I hope that you'll check out part 2, since I am going to split the part around an hour. Seems to be the sweet spot for YouTube processing. But I'll be back with the finale in the next part. I hope to see you, and thanks for watching. Okay, I'm actually going to do 2 things. I'm going to give myself an opportunity to rest my voice for a minute, and I'm also going to get more water because I'm drinking quite a lot because I'm talking so much tonight. So I'm going to run downstairs and refill my water. All right. Guys, thank you so far. You've been a great audience. Please, let's keep some support going. Let's hit the goals tonight. We are at $72 of support. We got about roughly an hour left on the stream for the second half. Please support the stream in some way. Super chats, memberships, gifted memberships, tips, subs, gifted subs. Notably, we have like no subs today. I don't think we got a single sub. So absolutely, please support the stream if you can. Let's hit that goal tonight. Let's make it one more streak, right? Let's do it. By the way, Hypnotic Jinx with $20 super chat says, your list is blowing my mind so far. Interested in seeing what the last 10 are going to be. Oh, you will be interested because, again, this is not the worst games of the year countdown, which is pretty much what everyone does. I'm doing the most disappointing playthroughs, which is very, very different. I can't spell tonight. And with that, we are now up to $92 of support and climbing. So we are very close to hitting our goal at this point. Let's get some support going. Let's get some over on Kick, my friends. Who's going to be the first person to gift a sub over there? All right, give me a sec. I'm just going to run downstairs and get more water. I'll be right back. And then we'll continue on with the show. Be right back, everybody. Did I spell the name wrong? Jade is correcting me. He says I spelled Jinx's name wrong. Okay. You're correct. It's an I, not a Y. There we go. All good now? Yes, all good now. Cool. All right. Let me refill. King Michael, how are you tonight? I don't even remember that. Vietnamese Comrade says I played a game called Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z in 2014. I don't even remember that game at all. I have no idea what that was. Battle of Z? No, I'm not grouping each segment separately. This is going to be 2 videos, you know, 1 for each hour, essentially. Because I knew it would probably take an hour to get through 10 games. So there you go. Doing good, King Michael. All right, guys, let's roll right into the second half. Top 10 most disappointing playthroughs of the year. Again, thanks to those chilling and those who have supported. Please like the stream, please. Let's get the question marks, all right, off the leaderboard. Let's get someone to gift the sub, and let's get someone to gift a membership. Let's get that rolling tonight, and let's hit the goal. We're already so close to hitting it with an hour left, right? Cool. Okay. All right, folks, here we go. Hello, everyone. DSP here, and welcome back to my top 20 most disappointing game playthroughs of 2024 countdown here on DSP Gaming. This is the second half. This is going to be 10 up to all of the number 1 most disappointing playthrough. Now, just to remind all of you, these are not the worst games of the year. These are the most disappointing playthroughs. A lot of these games on this countdown I actually really liked, but sadly the playthroughs just didn't turn out well for whatever reason. Although some of these games actually were quite disappointing and would be considered some of the worst games of the year for me as well. So a lot different from what other people do for the year-end countdowns. I hope that you're enjoying. If you didn't see part 1 yet, I strongly recommend that you check it out. You're going to want to know what games came before you get to the top 10. But without further ado, we're about to jump back in, except I just want to give a quick shout out to Legend Lurker, 3-month resub tonight over on Kick. I just want to add that to our running total of support. And then we can actually continue on. So, thank you, Legend Lurker. Gets us up to $97 to support on tonight's live stream. Thank you so much. All right, continuing on. It's time to continue the countdown. Ladies and gentlemen, the number 10 most disappointing game playthrough of 2024 for me was... I'm curious if anyone can even remember what this one is, just from looking at it initially. Now you probably can, right? Now that we're a couple seconds in. Probably one of the most forgotten games of the year for most people. A game that got a ton of hype at first, but when it finally came out, ended up being incredibly disappointing. Ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars Outlaws. Yeah, this was a game that was supposed to combine GTA, open world sandbox mechanics with Star Wars. And, hey, I said, I bet this is a good game, too. You know, I kind of saw, when you saw the previews for it or whatever, you're like, you know, it's this simple. I actually remember what I said before I ever played the game. I said, if the gameplay loop is fun, okay, and it really is an immersive Star Wars world, then I could see this game taking off and doing really well. But if it ends up being a typical Ubisoft game, and when I hate to say it, Ubisoft, when I say that, I mean a game that's very samey, very repetitive, same gameplay loop over and over and over, to the point where you get so bored because it's the same thing so many times, I don't foresee the game doing very well. So when the game came out, the first thing that I can say is it didn't run very well. Now, as you can see, I'm actually playing this on PC, my brand new gaming PC that I got this summer, and it was a little choppy. But the part that it really was choppy in was the open world. Basically, whenever you went outside of the city and started traveling on the overworld, of which I probably have some footage here, it basically would chop up. And that's disappointing. This is supposed to be like a, you know, brand new, groundbreaking game. You know, supposed to be well bug tested and refined. And as soon as you started hitting these open world areas, your frame rate would dip, and actually the draw distance too was quite disappointing. Whereas you're driving around, you would just see things popping in around you. I'm like, dude, this is a new modern game. Why does it have the draw distance of a game from like 10 years ago. It's very weird. So just in that regard, it was disappointing. If it's open world Star Wars, you want it to run well, and it just doesn't run well in the open areas. Okay. The other major problem for me, so I played through the intro of the game and through the first story beat. Through that time period, it was almost all sneaking. Like literally almost the entirety of that was sneaking. Okay. Now, when you think Star Wars, what do you think? What's the first thing that comes to mind, right? To me, it's that giant Star Destroyer coming through the sky, shooting things and blowing things up. The Death Star blowing up planets. Darth Vader and his evil Sith powers, or Luke Skywalker and his powers of the Force fighting against them. The Jedi, good versus evil, right? Guess what's not in this game? Anything I just described. All the good things you think about when you think of Star Wars are not in this game at all. What you get is a game where you're playing as an underpowered, underwhelming, sneaking person in a world that has all this cool stuff. You're ignoring it to play the role of this other woman whose name I can't even remember. So that tells you how much of an impression she left on me. Okay? The other funny part about it is, even though it's all sneaking and stealth gameplay, hilariously, this woman is like Wonder Woman. She can actually, well, that's interesting. She can actually take down enemies as if she were like superpowered. So she'll walk up behind someone and just grab them and just throw them to the ground and they're knocked out entirely. A big burly dude, right? There's times when you just like punch them once and they're knocked out. Like, who are you? You look like you're some skinny woman, right? You don't look like you're some burly, time-tested pirate or anything. It's just kind of absolutely silly. But anyway, in regards to this game, all right, the reason that it really didn't resonate because it was just boring. Within the first 5 hours, the game is boring and has a boring gameplay loop of sneaking, and more sneaking. And then when you finally go to open world, it just doesn't run very well. So it's disappointing. Now, very well, if I had played further into the game, maybe I would have liked it more, but I didn't like the first 5 hours. So if you don't like the initial gameplay of a game, why are you going to go further into it, right? That's like saying, oh, I bought a fighting game and I didn't like the fighting game engine, but I just kept playing it hoping that I would like it. Why? You know what the fighting game engine is. This game isn't mysteriously going to become a game with action and force powers and all kinds of shit. It's always going to be a stealth game about some kind of a criminal. So sadly, I hate to say it, they threw you into probably the most boring plot line of any Star Wars game I've ever seen and some of the most boring gameplay elements. You know, if you liked it, that's fine. But to me, I was looking for something different from a Star Wars game. And when you're literally going out of your way to ignore the cool parts of a universe and make a game about the others, the B team, the C team, the D team characters, maybe you made a bad choice. And I think, sadly, that's why this game flopped. People probably played through the first few hours like, what? And it spread the word that the game was so boring that no one wanted to buy it or play it. It's just funny because I think they were actually counting on this game to be some kind of like a huge sales success. And it was one of the biggest flops that Ubisoft has had in the past several years. They put a ton of time and money into it and it did not sell well. Retro Danny says, I strongly agree. The game made me want to fall asleep. Jade says, man, I was so worried that if we watch this, I was going to get sick because the frame rate's choppy. Yeah, because he remembers. Jade was one of the people on the stream, and as we're driving through the open world, it's going chugging, and all of a sudden objects are appearing in front of us out of nowhere, like popping in, and you're like, oh my God, you're going to barf. Here's the thing, like a game like this very much may have been patched and improved by now, but first impressions are everything. The game needed to be good at launch, and it simply wasn't. Oops, there goes the planet. Oh, wait, that's Spaceballs. Even that's far better than this game. Anyway. All right. Continuing on with our top 10 most disappointing game playthroughs 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Star Wars Outlaws. No, number 9, which was... Ooh, here's a good one that probably a lot of you don't recall or remember. Just by staring at the screen, you're probably going to have no idea what game it was. So allow me to fast forward ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, this game is called Alone in the Dark. Now, admittedly, this game is not the most AAA style game that I played this year. The game, in fact, has some issues with bugs and polish. However, if you're looking for a suspenseful mystery, if you're looking for a game with some interesting exploration elements, okay, and an intriguing story that keeps you on the edge of your seat wondering what the heck is going on. Pretty good game. I was actually surprised at how good this game was compared to the expectations, because I don't think anyone had expectations that it was going to be very good. The one thing I will say, I don't know why it was really called like Alone in the Dark, because I actually don't think that it actually was a game that tied that much into the main plots of the old game. Maybe I'm wrong there, but it just seemed like it could have been called something else. But man, I actually really liked it. It definitely had shortcomings, and it definitely wasn't a AAA experience. But for the most part, I liked the gunplay. I liked the exploration, the puzzles, and the intriguing story. I will admit, one of the disappointing things is if you play it with both characters, there's very little different between their stories. There's only maybe one or two times when the characters' stories differentiate and they have kind of a separate experience. But for the most part, the game's almost identical. The game does have multiple endings, which is cool that you can get them. However, why is this one of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year for me? I'm going to tell you why. I want to know why. It's a completely different reason than you would ever expect. All right. I remember when I was playing this game, one of the things that I actually said was, man, you know what? This is a really good first outing. For a studio that I'm not familiar with any other work that they've done. This is a good first attempt at breaking into something maybe that'll go more mainstream. And maybe now, because of this game, they'll get more notoriety and they'll actually be able to make a better game. Maybe they'll get a bigger budget, a bigger dev team, whatever it may be. Maybe the next game will be better, right? Notably, they had David Harbour as one of the main characters of this game. So maybe the next one, they could actually really go crazy, right? Like just go nuts, make a really good game. Guess what happened, folks? This studio got closed because Alone in the Dark did not end up being a hit. They were actually shuttered. And all these people who made this game got laid off this year. That's why I'm so disappointed. It's not the game. It's not the playthrough. It's the games industry. The games industry today is in such a cutthroat situation that you have to make a game that prints money. If you don't, you might get fired. Does this game look bad? Does this game look like there's any reason why the dev team that worked on it should be unemployed right now? I don't think so. Certainly, again, like I said, I don't think that this game was top of the line AAA level, but at the same time, for what it was, for the price point that it was and everything, I really liked it. I had a great time playing through this game. I'm disappointed that people lost their jobs because the industry can't support a game that's not going to print $1 million bajillion. And that's actually a good point. Piss Style Man, excuse his name, over on Kick just said, they're closing studios even when they're doing well. Look at what happened with Hi-Fi Rush, right? We're talking about Tango Gameworks. Makes a hit game in Hi-Fi Rush that sells well, and Microsoft still closes them. So the industry's pretty messed up. And so the reason I'm disappointed is now when I think back at this playthrough, even though I like the game, I'm always going to have a bad thought in my mind that these people got laid off for their hard work for putting out a good game. And that's just not right. So that's actually why it resonates as a negative experience for me, despite the fact that the game was good. If you want, you can check the game out. It's actually not half bad, and it's probably on extreme discount right now. I would recommend it. If you like survival horror stuff, you'll probably get a kick out of it. The story is actually quite interesting and riveting. Very good. Okay. You ready? Now, Nyano Live says they made the mistake of selling out their souls to Microsoft. I think he's talking about, I think he's speaking of Tango Gameworks. The good news is Tango Gameworks actually is okay again. They actually, even though they all got fired or laid off, they ended up getting bought out by another studio, and now they're coming back. So there's a silver lining for Tango Gameworks, but sadly those people, yeah, not good. Okay. Ready? All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. The next in our countdown, most disappointing playthroughs of the year. Number 8 is the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, or whatever the hell they called it, because it actually has one of the most convoluted, ridiculous names of any fighting game collection that I've ever heard. It's just ludicrously complex, the name. All they had to call it was the MVC Collection or the Versus Collection. But instead, they had to call it the most absolutely ludicrously, stupidly ridiculous, over-the-top, unrememberable name ever. Okay? So why is this collection in my countdown of most disappointing games of 2024. Okay? Well, is it because it has revived an entire genre of fighting game from back in the day? Of course not. Is it because the games perform poorly? Actually, no. They perform pretty darned well. I would argue they're actually pretty close to arcade quality. Are there critical game bugs and flaws? There were a couple, but they were fixed. So it's not like they don't support the game or anything like that. Okay. So you'll be wondering, with a fighting game, why would you be saying this then? Like what actually is bad about the game? I say this as I do the nice infinite there and then drop my infinite. But so what's wrong with the game? Okay. Here's what's wrong with the game. Two critical flaws. Flaw number one is definitely the fault of the game developers. It's not cross-platform. Okay. And they didn't put enough effort into the game to make it so that it would have longevity. What do I mean by that? Well, if the game is not cross-platform, then it needs to have some kind of features or some kind of reason to go back to it time after time, right? This game, listen to this, doesn't stop rage quitters. This game, you can infinitely rage quit and pull the plug. There is no penalty whatsoever for rage quitting in this MVC collection. So there are people, I'm not kidding, I wish I was exaggerating here. There are people at Grandmaster rank, the highest ranked possible in the game, who when you play them, if they lose, they just pull the plug and never lose any points. That's why they're Grandmaster rank. I played people at the highest rank who I spanked. I literally slapped them around like this because I used to play these games in arcades and tournaments back in the day. I'm actually quite good at them. And then they would just pull the plug. So there's no way to ever actually legitimately beat someone if they just choose to cheat. It's pretty sad. Now, the other thing is because it's not cross-platform, that means that inevitably the player base is going to die down after a period of time because initially a bunch of people might buy it on PC and a bunch of people bought it on PS4 and some people bought it. But then since they're all different platforms that don't cross over, people will eventually stop playing and then it's going to be too hard to find a match. That's actually what's kind of happening right now. As you try to play any game in this collection besides Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you can't find anyone. You can get competition in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but that's it. That's the only game where you can actually find people. Every other game in the collection is literally dead now, only a few months into it being out because they don't have cross-platform play, which is insanely unacceptable. It's supposed to be a collection of all the classic versus games, not just one. But that's basically what it's become. Now, in addition to that, there's one other awful critical flaw with this game. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, this game's netcode, which is rollback netcode, is not compatible with classic fighting games such as this game. What do I mean by that? There are literally characters in this game that when you do rushdown, you cannot block the rushdown. The game will not allow you to actually block it. Meaning those characters, if played in a certain way, are actually unstoppable. Their attacks and combinations become unblockable. And that is just unacceptable. There's no excuse for that. If the netcode can't handle it, then don't release the game with that netcode. And it can't. See, rollback netcode, what people don't realize, was designed for modern fighting games. And a lot of modern fighting games like Street Fighter 5 and 6 are designed around the netcode. That's why there's a certain amount of delay when you do a certain move and this and that. It's installed into the game to handle rollback netcode. But these games are not. So what happens is if you're fighting a Magneto or a Storm who's doing wave dashes and teleports, all of a sudden the game starts chopping up and you see characters just moving across the screen with no animation, teleporting. And next thing you know, you're just hit with a giant combo. You can't block it. Now, I'm sorry, but that destroys the competitive nature of the game online. It makes it so that it's not viable. If every time that you play someone who's doing a rushdown pattern, notably the team that everyone says is unstoppable is MSP, Magneto, Storm, Psylocke, because they have lockdowns, mix-ups, and traps that basically make it hard to block, but you can't block it all online. You can't. You'll get hit every time, so you lose. That's sad, because basically this game is able to be played in a couple different ways. Okay, there are ranged teams. There is some keep away. It's just not viable online. Like, no lie, it's very hard to play keep away when the rushdown is unstoppable and just kind of turbos through everything. So it's sad. Like, this collection, when it was first announced, I was so hyped. They're like, wow, the Marvel games are finally coming back. These are the games I grew up with in arcades. These are the games that I played endlessly for years in tournaments. And even though I was never a top contender, I know my stuff and I know that I could play these games and put on entertaining shows for my audience. And in truth, I have done that, correct? Like I have put out many entertaining streams of the Marvel collection, despite the game's shortcomings. And I'm happy that you guys still like it. And every once in a while, we still play it. Hey, look, I'm doing Infinite. Can I continue to the corner? Yep, that was perfect. That was great. I actually did an Infinite and did the right thing and snapped in the character with low health. I can't believe I played well in a clip I actually selected. Usually when I select a fighting game clip, I'm playing terribly. So I'm actually impressed that I actually picked a good one here. But anyway, yeah, like I've put out good content with this game. But sadly, the game has no longevity. Like this game could be dead at any moment. Where just I go to turn it on and I just can't find anyone to play anymore. It's sad. Like this should have been a game with longevity. These are classics that people absolutely love and were asking for this game for years. And it's just a completely deflated, not very good game. Very, very sad. You know, notably for me, Marvel vs. Capcom 1 is one of my favorite fighting games of all time and one of the best I've ever been in any competitive game. And it's just dead. I can't find anyone to play it anymore. So I can never play that game again, even though it's in this collection. It's a dead game to me, which is really sad. In fact, is it Jacko Man? I don't know if it's pronounced Jocko Man or Jacko Man, but he just asked in the chat, what is your favorite classic versus game besides MVC2? MVC1. That's the one that I was super duper good at and actually won tournaments in. So pretty sad that, again, I got to play it for like a month and now I'll never play it again because you can't get any comp for it because it's not cross-platform. Just a critical flaw. Okay, so sadly, this MVC Fighting Game Classics Collection, or whatever the hell it's called, is underwhelming. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you right now, I strongly recommend against buying it at this point. If you buy it, you are not going to get much comp at all, no matter what version you buy. You're going to end up being very disappointed because of that. So I really can't recommend it. I say do not buy it because you're going to buy it and barely play it because there's no one playing the game at this point, okay? And there's a nice round ending move in the corner. Very nice. Okay, MVC Collection, sadly, one of the most disappointing of the year for me. I had high hopes and it flopped. Okay. Is it fine for offline play? Yes, the game is fine for offline play. If you're just going to play locally or against the computer, the game is fine for that. But that's not really what anyone bought it for. So, okay. Up next, the number 7 most disappointing playthrough of the year. Excuse me. Yes, playthrough of the year was... That is right. Ladies and gentlemen, Hades 2 Early Access. Whoa, why on earth would I say that Hades 2 Early Access was one of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year for me? Allow me to explain. Years ago, I played Hades 1, and when I played it, I really liked it. I didn't think I was going to like it because I didn't play roguelike games at that time. I didn't even really understand what a roguelike game was. So when I first, dabbled with Hades, I was blown away. The gameplay loops, the different builds and things that you could do, it was great. I got addicted to it just like everyone. I got hooked on it. I really loved it. I ended up playing a full playthrough and beating the entire game. It took quite a while, but we did it. We saw all the secret endings and everything. Really great game, right? So when Hades 2 was announced that it was available, and I had a mini PC. This was before I got my full-fledged gaming PC. But when I had my mini PC and, looking for games to play on there, this was a prime candidate, okay? So I decided I was going to get it, and I purchased it early. It's early access, so you buy it early. And I started playing it, and admittedly, it's great. It plays very similarly to Hades 1, but it's got some different twists and tweaks to the engine that I find very interesting. The plot is interesting. Everything was good. Like, we were having a good time. But within 2 streams of me playing it, something very odd happened, okay? So, just to give you some perspective here, when I played Hades 1, I didn't break any view records, okay? To be honest, it wasn't a game that brought butts to seats, but there was a core audience that enjoyed coming by and watching me play Hades 1. And they supported it, and it ended up being a very fun playthrough that went for a long time. With Hades 2, after having played it about twice, I noticed a distinct drop-off in viewership. I noticed a distinct disconnect in the chat where people were basically not paying attention to the game, and I noticed a distinct drop-off in support as well. So those are the 3 factors that I need to have good. I need to have a game that people are going to watch and engage with and support, and it wasn't happening. So when I asked my audience, why? If the first game worked so well and everyone enjoyed it, why on earth this game, why is it not working, right? And the answer that I received baffled me. Okay. The answer that I received was thus: the game is good, but it's early access, right? So that means that essentially you can't really finish the game at this point. You're going to come to a point where you can't progress any further. Now, it's pretty far into the game, but it's not done yet. A lot of people don't want to spoil themselves on a game like this until it's fully able to be purchased and played. And therefore, people who were like hardcore fans of this game didn't want to watch me play it. They actually wanted to skip it because they weren't spoiled, because they felt like it was too early to be playing or getting information about the game. So in this case, me paying money to play early bit me in the foot. Like, yeah, people were like, oh, I'll come back. If you play the real game when it comes out, whatever that may be, we'll come and watch you play it. But we wanted to see you play the real game. What you're playing essentially is an early build. Things might change in the final game. The plot might change. You can't even finish it now. So we don't want to watch you play it. And I was like, wow, well, that's disappointing. Hence why it's the number 7 most disappointing playthrough. It's unfinished. I had to put it on pause. I don't even know if when I play this again, if I'll continue from where I left off, or if I'm going to have to start over entirely, because the game might be so different. And a lot of people were saying that once they get to a certain point where they change the build of the game so far that basically you can't even resume your game. You have to start over entirely. Okay. So honestly, pretty disappointing. I was enjoying the game. I wish I could have kept playing it. But again, I'm not just playing games for me. It's games for an audience. I need to be doing stuff you guys want. And people told me to stop playing, so I did. And yes, that is correct, Haseo. As of today, the game is still in early access. The game still does not have a set final release date. And so it's just kind of in limbo indefinitely. And that's disappointing. Okay. The number 6 most disappointing playthrough of 2024 for me was, that is right. That's right, folks. DLCs are eligible, because this is the second DLC for Alan Wake 2, which was called The Lake House. Okay? This was the final DLC for Alan Wake 2, which only had 2 DLCs. The first one, which I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, I think it was Night Springs, was a series of 3 mini stories, all of which added to the lore of Alan Wake. But the Lake House DLC, the second DLC for Alan Wake, was incredibly disappointing. Why? Because it was more of a DLC for Control than it was for Alan Wake. The plot had nothing to do with Alan or anything going on in the lake. And I think they were really trying to do some kind of a lead-in to the crossover between Control and Alan Wake 2 that's going to happen. But this is pretty disappointing to me. All you do is run around a research facility where basically things have gone wrong. There's this weird painted monsters coming out of the walls, and some of the people have been turned into monsters like they had been in Alan Wake 2. But all you do is run around fighting these generic enemies, which, by the way, are quite tough. So it's not even like it's a cakewalk. It's pretty annoying, some of the ways that they just stack on 1 million enemies in small areas in this. There's a very big scarcity of ammo, so it makes it so that basically you can't really fight the enemies that effectively unless you finally find a grenade or something like that. The puzzles are a little annoying. They're not, easy to figure out. In some cases, they're kind of cryptic, and it takes a while to figure out certain ones that I got stuck on. And the ending is so underwhelming. Let me tell you, the ending adds absolutely nothing to the lore of Alan Wake. So if you play the first DLC, Night Springs, you start getting all these answers and things that you've always wanted about Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2, and it's so satisfying. So then the final DLC literally is a go ahead and skip it. I'm not even kidding. In fact, I'm going to say this. I'm serious about this too, all right? It's rare that I would do something like this, but I'm going to say something to all of you, and I want you to take this to heart, okay? If you're wondering, I didn't play that Lake House DLC for Alan Wake 2. Should I eventually get around to it? Should I play it? My answer is very simple. No, do not play it. Lake House is disappointing and literally a waste of time. If you're really that adamant about finding out what it was, watch someone else who played it or read a plot synopsis somewhere. Don't waste your time playing it. It really is like a 3 to 4 hour waste of your time just grinding away to get through this stupid DLC that is absolutely not have any meaning to it whatsoever. you're just doing something. You could whittle like a totem. You could learn how to whittle, and that'll be more useful. You could wipe your ass for like 3 hours. I'm serious. Now that'll hurt. It'll probably make it very sore. That's more productive. You could pluck your nose hairs. You could give yourself a manicure. Anything you do would be a better use of your time than playing that DLC. It really just doesn't need to exist. It feels like they really wanted a 2 DLC deal, but didn't have an idea for the second one. So they just decided, hey, let's just toss it in and be something about control rather than Alan Wake. And it's stupid. Like, I was looking for definitive answers on the ending of Alan Wake 2, and instead you get no answers whatsoever because it has nothing to do with it. So yeah, it's pretty damn disappointing, and I'm sad that the final piece of Alan Wake 2 content that we're going to get for a very long time ended up being a sizzling out, just, fart in the wind. Really crappy, stinky. It doesn't need to stick around for very long because it's short too. Okay, ladies and gents, this is it. You ready? The top 5 most disappointing game playthroughs of the year. This is it. The worst of the worst. The ones that really upset me for various different reasons. Are we ready? You ready to see me upset? Because I know I'm ready to be upset. So you ready to see me upset? All right, here we go. By the way, we're in the home stretch. Thank you, Guitar Player, who did a $5 super chat. I've always enjoyed your year-end series. Thank you, Guitar Player. I always enjoy doing the year-end series. I'm sorry I didn't shout that out earlier. You had done that in the middle of the countdown, and I got distracted. So we are now technically up to $103 of contributions, which means we are less than $50 away from hitting our goal. Guys, let's hit our goal here tonight on the most disappointing countdown stream. All right? All right. The top 5. We said the top 5 most felted games. Well, again, it's not necessarily always the game. All right? It could be the situation. So let's see. All right, ready? Let's do this. So the number 5 most disappointing playthrough of 2024 was... That is right. You knew it was going to be on this list if you watched my playthrough of it earlier this year. A game that initially actually really impressed me. I loved it. I was having a great time with it. And then when I got halfway through, all of a sudden the game came to a screeching halt with annoying gameplay mechanics that definitely were not tested and were not fun. An entire chapter that was boring. And then a big boss finale that was just a chore. And it got to the point where we went from a game that had hype and everyone absolutely loved to a game that I just didn't even want to play anymore. And that's really sad. I want you to understand, I like the game a ton. The game I'm talking about, of course, is Black Myth Wukong, okay? So here's the deal about Black Myth Wukong. First of all, absolutely gorgeous graphics on PC, okay? Undeniable. The effects, just look at, while some Wukong here is walking through the snow, take a look at the footsteps. Take a look at how his staff is touching the snow and it's making a trail, right? That's remarkable. Take a look at the graphics. Look at the giant turtle that we're running towards right now and how it moves and it's organic and everything looks awesome. The lighting, everything gorgeous, right? Absolutely gorgeous. When the game starts, this game has a lot of fun combat. It's, light attacks and a heavy attack, and then you have a skill tree, and you can choose how you want to play. You can either charge up charges in your staff to do superpowered attacks, or you can do powered dodges, or you can do parries. There's all these different elements to the gameplay that you can pick through leveling up, okay? The world design. The first world, where you're in this kind of a forest with rivers and streams, and all these enemies are hiding in different areas, amazing. The second level, which is all this sand and plateau and underground caves and stuff like that, it's neat. The third level is snow. So the locations are interesting. The only problem is when you actually try to start exploring the locations. And what you're going to find is that, sadly, unlike, say, FromSoft, okay, FromSoft, they have been doing this for a long time. They've got a lot of experience under their belts, right? So when FromSoft makes a new game and you're entering a dungeon area, you're like, whoa, we're about to experience a handcrafted, artisan, highly produced, highly designed, epic dungeon experience. Every piece of this dungeon was painstakingly laid out to have meaning. Every corner might have a monster that can jump out around it and get you. There may be a sniper. There may be a collapsible floor, a cool set piece, a boss that'll fly out of the sky and land in front of you, and now you got to fight it, right? All that stuff can happen in a FromSoft game. In Black Myth Wukong, literally the stages are as you're looking at right now, just wandering around an open area with no clear idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing. And that's the entirety of the game. Most of these areas are completely empty or have a single item in them that's like a craftable item that's not a big deal. Some of them will have optional mini bosses in them, which is great, until you realize that the vast majority of what's in this game is just optional mini bosses. I wish that that was a joke, but this game has so many mini bosses in it that it became a running joke that the game is basically all mini bosses. And that's not good. You know what I mean? Like, you want the game to be more than just a boss rush. And it kind of starts to feel like a big boss rush at one point because there's so many dang mini bosses. Here's one of them right here. Now, I'm not saying that these mini bosses aren't cool or good fights are well designed. I'm just saying that's like the whole game, you know? And I don't think that when people went into this experience at first, they thought that's all it was going to be. Also, once you get about halfway into the game, you've got an established build that you're going to be using for the rest of the game because of you know what you've picked in your skill tree. And quite frankly, it's very repetitive at that point. Even if you're adding little minor tweaks to improve this or that piece of the combat engine or whatever, it's not really going to change that much. For me, it was this. Do a bunch of light attacks to charge up a heavy. Do a heavy attack to charge up another heavy. Then do a finisher. Dodge a lot. If you can parry with a certain ability, parry. Do a special move when it charges up. Do a finisher when it charges up. Wash, rinse, repeat. Very basic. Done that kind of gameplay in many, many other games. Not innovative at all. Okay? So I would say the combat, which is the core element of the game, isn't very innovative. And because of that, becomes boring and just becomes the same kind of crap over and over. And that's why you get bored when you're halfway through the game. Okay? In addition to that, and this is kind of sad, the story is quite bad. Okay? If you know the story of Journey to the West, you know that it's epic. It's actually one of the more interesting stories ever told. Very unique characters and elements to the story that are, ingrained in Japanese, or I said Japanese, excuse me. That's a big mistake. Chinese culture, excuse me. I know it's not Japanese. It's Chinese culture, Journey to the West. That does not come through with this game at all. To be clear, it does not come through at all. Instead, the game is just, you're just kind of doing combat and exploration and boss rush. That's the whole point. Like, I couldn't even tell you what they were trying to say the story was. I think you're supposed to be a reincarnation of Sun Wukong or something like that, but I'm not sure. And I had played over 20 hours into the game, and I had absolutely no clue what was going on in the story. That's not good. Okay? It's Journey to the freaking West. It's an actually great story. There's great characters or whatever. Why is none of this actually coming through and resonating with the game? Instead, it's mash buttons, mash into your combos, mash more buttons, mash into your combos, dodge and time your dodges because every enemy hits you for 80% damage. It's just like, what? Like, what happened here? To be honest, I'm not sure. It's like no one was actually like playing the game to tell them, hey, by the way, I have no clue what the fuck's going on in the game. It's fine. The game looks good. The combat's, smooth, but I don't know what's happening. Can you explain? You know what I mean? So basically, here's what happened. First few streams of the game was in the first chapter. It felt fresh and new. Amazing. Great amount of people watching, enjoying, supporting, everything great. When we got to chapter 2, a little bit fell off, but I still really liked the game. I was enjoying the exploration and all of that. I thought it was great. When we hit chapter 3, you get to a dungeon where basically it's very similar to the dungeons in previous FromSoft games. You ever play the ones that have those jailers that look at you, and when they do, with like the lantern, your energy bar shrinks? It's literally the exact same premise. I wish it wasn't, but they copied it blatantly from FromSoft. And so you start losing your health. The game starts to get really slow and boring. You don't know where to go. You don't know what you're doing. It's a grind. There's not a lot of save points along the way. So you end up replaying the same parts over and over and over, and it gets very frustrating. There's a boss that's one of the most boring bosses in any action game I've ever fought. It's just a giant tankish boss. All you can do is beat the crap out of it and do timing dodging. That's it. There's nothing else to it. No elements or nothing. Just be sure to hit him with a million combos and dodge a lot during the right timing, and you win. The problem is the fight takes like 15 minutes. It's that boring and grinding of a fight. It's not fun in any way. Again, did they ask anyone if this gameplay was fun? I don't get it. It's very bizarre. It got to the point where we went from having high attendance, high engagement, high support streams by the time I got to the end of chapter 3, the attendance had dropped to only 200 viewers, of which I have more than double that right now on stream. Okay. The actual engagement fell off. People who were on the streams weren't paying attention or were complaining about the game. And the support was almost non-existent. In fact, I had a streak of support that was going over the summer. Black Myth Wukong ended my streak. It ended up being a very slow stream and we didn't hit the goal. And people were very disappointed because they were very happy with that streak that reinvigorated support for me, you know? So, it is what it is. Now, I guess there's some juicy redemption here because, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not noticing, Hypnotic Jinx did a 20-member bomb here on the channel. Thank you so much, Hypnotic Jinx, with that 20-member bomb. First of all, let's get him up on the leaderboard there because no one else had gifted any memberships tonight. Is it spelled? It's spelled with an I. Gotcha. I thought so. It was a 20-member bomb. That 20-member bomb is the equivalent of $60 of support. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is true. Tonight, we have hit our goal for the stream. Thank you so very much, Hypnotic Jinx, for supporting the channel and making it rain here in Seattle tonight on DSP Gaming. I appreciate you filling the King's coffers. Another stream of hitting the goals. That is awesome. And it also now means that we are up to a whopping and staggering 48 goals hit, meaning we are incredibly close to doing a reward marathon this week, which I very strongly foresee happening. I think we're going to do it, okay? So Black Myth Wukong redeems itself tonight because we hit the goal while I was playing it, but it killed my streak during the summer. It killed the momentum that I had on my streams. To be honest, I was getting high attendance and support on every stream. This is the game that killed it. And it's sad because I feel like this game had great initial potential, but then it just kind of ran out of ideas and became very repetitive and boring by chapter 3. Some people have said that further into the game is better, but if I've already played 20 hours and I'm bored, I'm not going to waste more time to get to the good parts. Most people agree chapter 4 also is bad. It's not until you get to chapter 5 and 6 that the game picks up and gets good at the end. Too bad. Give me a game that's good throughout. Give me a game that has good level design like FromSoft. It doesn't have that. Give me combat that's not incredibly repetitive and gets boring after a while. It definitely doesn't have that. It's just not very good. All right. I'm sorry, but it's a game that in parts is great, but overall was boring. And that's why it was one of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year for me. Okay. This is it. The top 4. I wonder how many of you have been guessing all night and wondering what would be the games in my top 4 most disappointing games of the year, right? Or excuse me, most disappointing playthroughs of the year. Retro Danny says, I actually think Black Myth Wukong looks cool and fun. I don't really care of the story. Maybe it reminds me of Neo because he's using a bow staff, and I'm getting into the mood of Elden Soulsborne hero games and Souls-like games as well. So he has a hard disagree, and that's fine. Listen, tons of people love Black Myth Wukong, okay? A lot of outlets named it their game of the year. Personally, I got bored. But if you didn't get bored, more power to you. All of us have different kinds of entertainment and tolerance levels. And for me, I got really bored with it and I didn't want to continue on. Okay? Okay. The number 4 most disappointing game playthrough of the year was, that's right, folks, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So let's talk about Rebirth, shall we? So initially, when I played Final Fantasy VII Remake many years ago, there was a ton of hype. There was a ton of attention. There was a ton of people who wanted to see me play every aspect of it. It was Final Fantasy VII reimagined for a modern audience with all new graphics, all new gameplay mechanics. Essentially, it was kind of like combining Final Fantasy with almost like a game like Kingdom Hearts at the time. And personally, I liked it. Did I love it as much as others? No, but I did like the game. And so when the game ended and it was revealed that it actually wasn't a straight up remake, but instead was a reimagining and continuing of the plot of Final Fantasy VII, I was pissed, but then I kind of liked it because that gave me hope that as I continued to play these games, there would be a new story. It wouldn't be exactly the same as the original. I would actually enjoy it more because it was going to have original aspects to it. And the more I played it, the more I enjoyed that fact. Okay. I love, Remake over time. I actually grew on me, and I couldn't wait for the sequel, Rebirth. In fact, you may not even be aware of this, but earlier this last year, at the beginning of the year, I was asked, what are the games you're most hyped for? And I said, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think it's going to be a great game. And so I started playing the game on PlayStation 5. Keep in mind, PS5 Pro wasn't out yet. And as you can see, the game performed pretty well. I mean, maybe it could have been better if the Pro was out, but it still performed pretty darn well when it came to the graphical department, okay? Some people complained and said, we didn't like that in combat. There's pixelization and resolution changes. Personally, it didn't bother me. I thought that the combat was fine. The story. Well, the story is the story of Final Fantasy VII with some additional things added in, so I like that. The game now had big open world segments, something that was not present in Final Fantasy VII Remake. And these open world segments had side content and enemy hunting and grinding, but also mini games and side stories and fun things in them. Chocobo traversal, riding a chocobo up walls and through certain areas. It was pretty neat, actually. All right. So, personally, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So what happened? I'll tell you what happened. I played it for about 20 hours. And then a certain stream happened where I was streaming the game. And I went over and I'm curious. The chat seems really dead today, and I don't know what's going on. So I looked at the stream attendance. We were under 200 viewers. That is actually one of the worst attendances I've ever received in any video game. Like, make no exaggeration about it. Yeah, I usually would get around 200 viewers, if not more, no matter what game that I'm playing. But sadly, this game was not performing well. Engagement. So I go to the chat and I start talking with people. The entire chat starts talking to me about sports. During Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, people are talking about March Madness basketball. What is going on? Could you be any more disconnected from what the game is about? Could you be any more not paying attention? Why are we talking about March Madness? I don't even like basketball. So why would that be a discussion in my chat? And then, of course, yes, the trifecta that goes with that, the support was abysmal. We didn't even get like $30 that day. Okay? So low attendance, low engagement, low support. And when I asked my audience what happened, essentially the story I got was thus. RPG overload. You've played too many RPGs. You played Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. You played Baldur's Gate 3. Now you're playing this. You say you're going to play Dragon's Dogma 2. You said you're going to play this other RPG. You skipped Persona 3, Reboot, Reload, whatever the hell it is. There's more RPGs coming out. RPGs, too many. So to be honest, I don't think it was the game that killed the playthrough. I think it was the timing. I feel like if I hadn't already been playing several other RPGs during the same time frame, people actually would have engaged and showed up and supported this playthrough. But the problem is, sadly, there were too many of the same style of game released within a very short window of time at the beginning of 2024. And what happened was all of these games cannibalized each other in views, in attention, even in sales. If you're not aware, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth underperformed for Square Enix, and they were shocked. They thought this game was going to blow sales numbers up. It was going to be the most purchased Final Fantasy game. They were looking to recover because Final Fantasy 16 the year before had also been a sales flop, and they were hoping this would make up for it. And literally, it fell on its face. It didn't sell well compared to what they were expecting. And so, to them, they were wondering what was going to happen with the series. Now, from what I'm going to understand, eventually it did sell more, and the PC port of this game is coming out soon. I think it's either this month or next month. So there may get more of an audience and more traction once it's not just exclusively on the PlayStation 5 console. But it stands to reason. The game, sadly, was a disappointment, but I don't know why. I mean, take a look. I'm having fun playing it here. Look, we're switching to Barrett now. We're going to run around this cave. We're going to use the gun. The graphics are great. Like, I'm really enjoying myself in this video. Sadly, the audience isn't. I don't know why, but that's just a reality, you know? So a lot of people during the year asked me if I would go back. I said, why would I go back when I was actually playing the game? You weren't there. You didn't engage. You didn't support. And people were begging me on that stream to turn off the game and do anything else. Literally, people were like, Phil, can you turn off Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and do a Q&A instead? We'd rather have that. And I was like, seriously? Like, that blows me away. I grew up with RPGs. RPGs are near and dear to my heart. So when people aren't liking or engaging with RPGs that I'm playing, it actually hurts me. It makes me sad. And this happened multiple times with RPGs this year. And I'm like, man, is this the year of the end of RPGs? I don't know. Okay. So that's the number 4 most disappointing game playthrough of the year. I never even got past 20 hours and I never went back. Number 3. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You knew I was going to bring it up multiple times, and I am, because I just want to let you all know Baldur's Gate 3 is in my top 20 best playthroughs of the year as well. I feel like it was both great and disappointing at the same time, so I want to give you both sides of the coin, all right? On the disappointing side, here is my thought on Baldur's Gate 3, okay? It's a fine game. It's a game that people will enjoy if you want length and bang for your buck and good narrative, okay? Really, it's absolutely a great game. I cannot hate on this game whatsoever. It is very entertaining and a great game overall. However, I just don't feel it's a good streaming game. Why? Because it's too dang long. It took me like 140 hours to beat it, okay? And that's not because I sucked. It's because the game is actually that long. 140 freaking hours to beat Baldur's Gate 3. Now, if you're the kind of streamer who you're only playing one game at a time and you're hyper-focused on said game, and you're getting strides and giant progress every time you play the game, then maybe Baldur's Gate 3 is for you. But in my case, I'm a variety streamer. I juggle a wide variety of content all at the same time. Correct? And in regards to that, when I was playing Baldur's Gate 3, it started in December of last year, and that playthrough didn't finish until, what was it, late March or early April of the next year. So you're talking it spanned 3 to 4 months to do 140 hours of gameplay. During that time, I played fighting games. I played other RPGs. I played story-based games, action games, everything. Because I didn't want to miss out on a million other games just to focus on this game. Okay? Now, listen. Oh, God, look at the scene that I picked. Oh, man. Look at the scene that I picked for my countdown, folks. Anyway, so in regards to Baldur's Gate 3, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. In this regards to Baldur's Gate 3, okay? Basically, I really liked the game, but it actually almost killed my channel. I want you to understand, I played it for so long that it was in my actual rotation of games for so long that people who didn't like it said, well, I'm just not going to watch Phil's content for a while until he's done with this dang game because I don't want to see him play Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not interested in it. So I had people, I'm not even kidding, hundreds of people who were regulars who didn't tune into my content for months. The only reason that things worked out is because there was a small handful of people who really liked Baldur's Gate 3 who kept coming by and actually supporting Baldur's Gate 3. If it weren't for those handful of people, I mean, there was one person who, no lie, was giving hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Oh my God. They were giving hundreds of dollars a stream to support it. If that didn't happen, this playthrough would have completely screwed up the channel and my business. I'm not kidding. And after this playthrough ended, I said, listen, I loved the game. I did. I really liked Baldur's Gate 3. I thought it was a great game. But I told everyone, I can't commit to playing games like this anymore. Like, it was just too lengthy. I can't play for 4 months to beat a game. So that's my problem is everyone likes it. 10 people support it, but then my channel dies. My views went down. My engagement went down. It took, I think it was April or May when finally I started playing variety games again. And then all of a sudden everything went back up. But it took a tremendous amount of time to get there. Okay. So sadly, I just simply cannot commit to playing long games like this ever again. Sorry, maybe I'll make an exception here or there, but this game, it was the litmus test. Can I play a game that's this long and see if it works? And the answer is sadly no. I don't think that a game like this is ever going to work again just because of that, all right? 4 months, losing hundreds of viewers who regularly watch my stuff, losing engagement. I'm lucky I had the small handful of people who were supporting the playthrough, And that's why it's disappointing. You know, I wish that if I had played Baldur's Gate 3 and did it, I had tons of attendance and support and everyone would have loved it, but it went the other way. I think this actually was the game that was the first portion of RPG Overload. I had already been playing Baldur's Gate 3 for months. Then I started playing Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Then I started playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Then I started playing Dragon's Dogma. Get it? That's what caused the issue, was that many of the same style of game in a short period of time. So, if you like my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, thanks for watching, but understand there's a good reason why I cannot play games of that length in the near future. All right, ladies and gents, 2 more to go. This is it, the finale. What about, I did punch the mic by accident. Sorry about that. What did your picks make it so far? Did you think that we'd be where we are? What could the final 2 games in the most disappointing playthroughs of 2024 be? Well, you're about to find out, because ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? The number 2 most disappointing playthrough 2024 is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Yes. Now, to be very clear, and I've made this very clear during this countdown, a lot of these games are fine games that I really enjoy, but the playthroughs disappointed me. Yes, this game is one of my most disappointing playthroughs of the year. Why? Because this was the game, while I was still playing Baldur's Gate 3, that I decided to pick up. This began RPG Overload. This began that feeling of resentment towards lengthy RPGs. And to be quite frank with you, the graphics were great. The gameplay elements were great. The story was not nearly as good as the last Like a Dragon game. And that's sad. The story was weak, actually. And it's weird because when you have 2 protagonists and 2 locations that you're going between, you think that it would be good. The ending actually was quite poor. It actually kind of retconned the whole idea of one of the plots of the game, which made it way less meaningful overall. And sadly, it just didn't resonate. Again, less people tuned in and watched this playthrough than the original. Less people liked it. And again, I think it's because RPG Overload. So listen, again, game was fun. Game was sound. Great mechanics. I liked all the job systems. I liked the 2 locations. All of that was great. But man, I was disappointed by the story, and I was disappointed at the RPG Overload that we experienced while I played this game. So I'm sorry that I couldn't make it a more entertaining playthrough for all of you. I surely tried, but there's only not that much that you can really do in regards to making a game like this work, besides just playing with the elements and having fun and joking and doing some commentary on the story or whatever, and then hanging out with the audience, which is what I did. And it didn't really catch on. Attendance was low. People kept begging me during this playthrough to quit it, by the way. I'm not even kidding you. People were like, oh, if you're already playing Baldur's Gate 3, please quit Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. We don't want to see the rest of it. I'm not kidding. This was 100% from the audience, people begging me to stop playing. So, very sad, okay? Also, someone's asking me, can I explain how the ending kind of retcons the story? No, because that would ruin the story. There's no point in me doing that. I'm not going to, spoil the story for everybody. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Number 1. What could be the most disappointing game playthrough of the year of 2024? Could it be a game that I purchased for full price, ended up sucking, and I really was upset that I had spent that much? Could it be a game that was full of bugs, that was incredibly disappointing because it should have been way more polished at launch? Was it a game that, because of its incredible length, ruined things? Was it a game that didn't have the features or good netcode? Was it any of those things? I have an answer for you. No. It was none of those things. It was none of those reasons. Are you ready? That was pretty good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my number 1 most disappointing game playthrough of the year is my biggest regret of being a content creator. Are you ready? Seriously, I'm not kidding you. This is the saddest part about being a content creator as a job. Here it is. Metaphor Gren Fantasio. That's how you pronounce it, right? Refantazio? Is it Refantazio? Refantazio? Is there an N in there? However, it's Metaphor. Okay? Metaphor. Most disappointing playthrough of the year for me. Why? Well, I'm going to tell you why. No signal. That's why. I'm going to tell you why. Let's fast forward to actual gameplay. I think that there's a dungeon coming up. Here we go. So here's the deal. Metaphor is a game by the makers of Persona. It has Persona-like graphics, but modernized in full HD. It's got great dungeon crawling. It's got excellent turn-based combat with new elements that are different from Persona, but some similarities. It's got a great story. That's a new world that they created from the ground up that's original and isn't a copycat of anyone else's. It's actually very interesting. It's kind of like Persona with new gameplay elements set in a fantasy universe. It's great. Take a look at how it performed. Runs really well, right? This is on PC. So, why in the holy hell would this be in my most disappointing game playthroughs of the year? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you a little story. I love JRPGs. Turn-based ones particularly. They're some of my favorite games. In fact, I would argue that JRPGs is probably one of my top 4, maybe top 3 favorite genres of games. Okay? I grew up playing them in the 1990s. Games such as Final Fantasy 2 and 3, which now are called 4 and 6 on the SNES, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, the Suikoden series, which I love, and I can't wait that there's a new remake collection coming out, and maybe I'll be able to share those experiences with all of you. Among many, many others. I played a lot of JRPGs, Wild Arms, all kinds of stuff growing up. They have a special place in my gaming heart. Okay? They do. So when I get to play a JRPG with all of you, and we have a chill and interactive and fun time, I have a great time. It's a memorable experience. One of my most memorable experiences that I've ever had was playing Dragon Quest XI with all of you. Or The Summer of Judgment. Anyone remember that? These are games that are just awesome social experiences, but also have great gameplay elements, great stories, and I love playing them. The problem is, if you haven't seen the running pattern from this countdown, for some reason, my audience, most of you, don't like JRPGs anymore. We've got a disconnect here. We all like fighting games. We like sandbox-style games, GTA. We like shooters, right? We like FromSoft games. There's a lot of things we have in common that we really like. But when it comes to JRPGs, we're definitely starting to have a great divide, okay? This was definitely the year of RPG overload. I admit that, okay? Definitely. There were too many long, drawn-out RPGs this year. I played too many of them early in the year. I stopped doing that, and then I didn't play RPGs for a very long time, okay? When Metaphor Refantazio had a demo out, which was the week before the game actually had a full retail release, I told you guys I was going to play through the demo, and based on performance of those streams, I would determine if I was going to buy the game and do a playthrough or not, because I wanted to do it. Like, I totally was down to do it, but seeing what had happened with JRPGs earlier in the year with RPG overload, I didn't want to buy it and commit to playing it to then have my audience again be disconnected and be sad that I was wasting time playing this way too long game. Okay? And so, when Metaphor came out, I played through the demo. I played a whopping 12 hours of the demo. Because the demo was that long. The demo's around 13, 14 hours long, to be clear. It's the entire first segment of the game, like the whole first act. Okay? So, I actually played it and really liked it. As you can see, look at this gameplay. It's like I said, it's like Persona, but with a twist, and it's really well executed, and the graphics are great. Like, I was having an absolute great time with this game. All right? But sadly, multiple times that I gave this game a chance, I think I did 4 streams of it, okay? Every single time I played it, low attendance, low engagement, support, and people asking me to stop playing it and play other games. All right? I tried hard. I played 3 hours, and then 6 hours, and then 9 hours, and then 12 hours. I kept playing it. Even though people were telling me not to, I kept playing it, trying to give it a chance. But at some point, you got to throw your hands up in the air and be like, listen, I gave it the good old college try, but it's just not working. And that's exactly what happened with Metaphor. Now, the funny part about it was, when I announced to everyone, well, guys, I guess we're not playing Metaphor, people got on my case and they're like, Phil, why aren't you playing Metaphor? Why? I did. Here's the question about these people who say this stuff. You're mad I'm not playing a game, but where were you when I was playing it? If I had gotten attention and engagement and support when I played it for 12 hours, then I would have bought the game and played it. But the people who wanted to see me play it didn't show up for the streams. So what do you want me to do? Listen, this is both a business and a hobby. I'm a lifelong gamer. I love video games. It's my passion. It's what I love to make content about, okay? I love games like this. I would have loved to do a full playthrough for all of you. I'm sad that I didn't. But this is my business and my job as well as my hobby. I can't just sit here and play whatever I want, because if I did, in this case, I would have went out of business in 2024. I would have been playing all these RPGs and no one would have shown up. I can't make people engage and like content. All I can do is showcase said content in an entertaining and fun way and hope that it works for you too. This game resonates with me, but it doesn't resonate with the mainstream chunk of my audience. So because of that, sadly, I just don't have the ability to play what I want. I want to play this. I still want to play this. To this day, I want to play Metaphor, but I can't. I have to play what I have time for on streams. I don't have time to play a 100-hour RPG off streams. I purposefully disconnect myself from gaming when I'm off stream so that I don't have overload. You imagine if I streamed all day games, then I went offline and I played more games, I'd be burnt out. I'd be so upset that my entire life is just inundated with video games that I probably wouldn't even enjoy them anymore, right? So listen, there's just not much that I can do. If people are going to say, I'm not going to show up and watch Metaphor because I don't like JRPGs, despite the fact that I have tried to express to you guys multiple times, these streams are not just about the game. It's a social experience. You can come by and hang out with me and we can have fun conversation and we can have a chill atmosphere and vibe, even if you don't like the game. We've done that with many games before. A lot of people didn't like Minecraft, but they loved the Minecraft streams. A lot of people don't like Microsoft Flight Simulator, but they enjoy relaxing with me when I do those streams. But for some reason, when it's a JRPG, people won't show up. I've tried again and again, and I'm sorry, I can't take the blame for the fact that I work my butt off trying to make these work and people still won't show up. So it sucks, but here's why this is number one on the list. Even after a year of RPG burnout and me staying away from RPGs, I gave this one a shot and it still failed. And a lot of people have said this in the chat recently. I remember it was Sarah earlier that had said it. Said, so does this mean that you can't play RPGs anymore? I don't know. I legit don't know. Is that what it means? That my audience is now so detached from RPGs and enjoying them that I just can't play RPGs anymore? Maybe. I don't know what else to say. I wish that it wasn't the case. I wish that I had the freedom to play whatever I wanted. But the truth is, folks, here's the truth. All right, let's be real talk as we end this list. The pattern here this year, you didn't notice, is that I'm not free to just play whatever I want. Why? Because I'm not a million sub YouTuber. I don't have 1,000 viewers plus on my streams. I don't have the amount of attention and popularity. I'm not beloved by everyone on the internet. And because of that, I have to pick and choose what I play, the things that you want to see and things that will work for my streams. You get that, right? That's business. And it's funny because some people like to pin, well, it's your fault. It's my fault. Well, I don't know what else to say. I am who I am. Do you want me to change who I am? Would you like me to be fake? Would you like me to be an actor for streams, a character, a cartoon? Should I dress up with a vest and sunglasses and a big fake wig and a stupid mustache and yell like I'm a G.I. Joe character from the 1980s? Should I dye my hair blue and do dabbing and dancing around and try to get trick shots in Fortnite? I mean, I could do that, but then I wouldn't be me. You understand? I wouldn't be original. I wouldn't have been here for 16 years. I would have been just another Muppet. And that's what I never wanted to be. Do you understand? I wanted to be myself. And when I play games like that, like Metaphor, I feel like a different side of me comes out because I truly have passion for games like that. And you would hope that that comes through. What I'm noticing is that people don't seem to care anymore. Just being honest, People are missing some of the best games and playthroughs that I can do because they just don't care, and there's nothing I can do to make people on the internet like me more when there's such a level of negativity and hatred towards me that's completely unwarranted. If anything this year, have we not seen that all the bullshit straw man arguments have been dispelled? The WWE champions thing, the, Phil's scammer and horrible towards his audience thing. All these things were picked apart, microanalyzed, put under the microscope, and it was exposed that none of these things are true, or if some of them have a nugget of truth, it's nothing to the extent where someone should hate on me and not like Darkside Phil and hate his guts and start a hate campaign against him. These are obsessed, very, very unhinged individuals who are looking to do this kind of stuff to me. My reputation, right? My business, hurting it, saying awful things that aren't true about me on a daily basis. We all know this now. So I can't make those people go away. All I can do is do what I can to persevere through it and continue to make content and not give up. And that's what I've done for 16 years. And I'm not going to stop doing that, okay? But definitely in 2024, I saw a pattern that sadly, I can't just play whatever I want. There was a time when I could. My early days as a YouTuber, I could pick any game out of a hat. It could be the worst game, the best game, somewhere in between, a game you've heard of, a game you've never heard of, an indie game, a big AAA game. Didn't matter what it was. Before the negativity hit me, I was able to play whatever I wanted and I could get an audience for it. And then all the memes against me, the "this is how you don't play" movement, the toxic troll movement, all this shit, the SOK, all these idiots that do it today, they have killed any kind of chance that I could have a following that just likes to watch me play whatever. It will never happen. Do you understand that? People like me, but they like me in context. They like me when I'm playing a FromSoft game and I'm failing and raging, or I'm overcoming challenge. They like me playing a fighting game where I'm kicking butt, but also kind of talking trash. They like me when I'm playing Call of Duty and I'm getting kill streaks, but then I fuck up and it's hilarious when I die and I make a big mistake. They like me when I'm playing a big action game or an epic story game that's a AAA game because they want to see my take on that. But most people today just don't like me playing RPGs because they don't care about the niche. They don't care about the true passion of Phil. They just don't like me that much. And there's nothing I can do about that. I can't just make the internet like me after a decade of hate. The only way I could do that is to be fake and to pretend to be someone I'm not. And I refuse to do that. I'm not going to be someone who I'm not and put on a persona and put on an outfit and put on a voice or an affectation and dress a certain way and get sponsors and partnerships and kiss butt and be the goody two shoes. Or on the flip side of that, be the hateful, mean person and always rag on people and be the drama asshole. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to continue to be me. If anything, I've proven I can be successful just being me. But sadly, I have to make smart decisions for myself and my family. This is not a joke. This is a business that needs to be run in a way that I'm putting out content that people want to consume. Because if the idea of a job is that you put in work to create a product or output that people will then consume and purchase for monetary means, and then you can make a living doing it, then I have to make content people want to consume. People, sadly, don't want to consume RPG content. So I can't make it. Now, I'm not saying I'm never going to play an RPG ever again. I'm just saying that, sadly, there's just not much I can do when people don't want to consume that content on this channel. There's plenty of people out there who play RPGs, but they're known for it, right? That's their forte. That's a niche of theirs. They're a specialist at it. So they can play RPGs and they bring in the views and bring in the support, and that's great. But I'm a variety dude. People have come to know me to play a variety of content, and they like that. They're not coming by for the 100-hour playthrough. They're coming by for a 3-hour stream of fun multiplayer. They're coming by to see me make progress against a really tough boss or dungeon in a Soulsborne game. You see? That's really where I think my forte is at this point. So, that's the truth of the matter. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment on this video. I want to hear your opinion. But the truth is, I didn't fail RPGs. I love them. I tried to play a lot of them this year. Not a single one worked. Not even the ones that I toughed through, like Baldur's Gate 3, like a Dragon Infinite Well. None of them worked. So there's not much I can do about that. The truth is, I'm now being pulled in a lot of directions, right? I'm being told, play these indie games over here you've never played before because now you have a gaming PC. Play these old games you've already played, but now play them with mods because you have a gaming PC. Play AAA games because you have a gaming PC. Play all these things you would never do. And then I'm being asked, can you be involved in this project? Could you do this new type of show? Could you do this and that? I'm being pulled in a million directions. I'm actually in demand. That's a great thing. I'm not complaining in any way, shape, or form. 2025 is stacking up to look like a great year for me. But I need to be smart about what I play and how I spend my time. Right now, the RPG situation ain't looking good. So I would love to see your comments on all of this. Leave a comment on the video after the fact. I promise you I'll give them all a read. I appreciate constructive feedback, but I need to know when literally half the list of the most disappointing playthroughs of the year were games that were RPGs that I was enjoying, but no one was engaging and supporting. That's an issue. Now, admittedly, some of them were. Dragon's Dogma 2, that literally was a stinker. But a lot of these games this year were games that I wish I could have continued with, but where was the audience? So I can't play games that no one shows up for. You understand that? And it's not like I don't get an audience for anything. I do, just not RPGs right now. So I hope you understand the situation I'm in. Metaphor is my biggest regret because I want to play it this very moment. It's a great game. It looks amazing to me. And I can't invest 100 hours of my time to play it because no one would watch it. Sad. You know, even after I played the demo and I announced I'm not going to play the final game, people were upset, but now one said, hey, Phil, just so you know, if you do decide to play the game, I'm going to show up and I'm going to support big because I still want you to play it. That's what happened with Baldur's Gate 3. That's why I played it. But that didn't happen with Metaphor. It seems like it's a small group of people who want to see it, but then they don't show up. So there's not anything else I could do about it until we reassess. And I think 2025, we're maybe going to have to reassess everything. And it's sad. I don't want to have to, but that's reality. It's not a situation where I have control over it, because if I go ahead and I play the game and no one shows up and no one engages and no one supports and it kills the channel, I go out of business. I can't do that. Understand? And for those who do understand, thank you. If you don't understand, come back to me in 10, 15 years when you're an adult and you're actually trying to like run a business or raise a family or, you know, support people. And then maybe you could understand where I'm coming from. I don't take these decisions lightly. I know that Metaphor was one of the best games of 2024. It sucks that I couldn't play it. I still want to play it right now, and I can't. All right, folks. By the way, Guitar Player, thank you for a $5 super chat. He says, I agree with your takes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, some people want to sit around and say no matter what I do that it's wrong. Okay, so if I had played Metaphor and it flopped and I, you know, terrible for the business, terrible for everything, well, that's your fault. My fault. So then I choose to skip it and do other stuff. Well, that's your fault. You skipped one of the best games of the year. That's my fault. Okay, everything's my fault, always, at all times. That's correct. You know, what else can I say? All right, I do my best at what I can do. If it's not my forte, if you think that my JRPG playthroughs are boring, then I probably still shouldn't play them, right? I don't know how to change to make this stuff entertaining because I'm not fake. I wish I wish that I didn't have these morals and values and I could just be a fake person to everyone. And then, you know, I'd be in the same situation as everyone, took every sponsorship, took every opportunity to kiss butt and lie about everything and get paid for it and make that bag. But you know me, that's not me. I'm not going to sit here and do that. So now I have so much support behind the scenes that I could play anything I want because the money rolling in during a stream doesn't matter. No, these streams are actually where I make the vast majority of my income. So that's what I got to focus on. See? Okay, guys. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed my countdown of the top 20 most disappointing playthroughs of the year. Not most disappointing games, like someone actually just said in Kick because they don't listen, but the top 20 most disappointing playthroughs of 2024. Leave a comment on the video. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Disagree? I would love to hear it. Now, I will say this. 2025, I hope, stacks up better than 2024. 2024 was a year of pretty underwhelming disappointments. So I'm hoping that this year we can have epic playthroughs, great games, but also great streams. Everyone liking it, the community enjoying the content together. Not just a little niche here and a little niche there, and we disagree on this and that. I liked it when I used to be able to play a big AAA game and everyone wanted to see it, and everyone showed up, and everyone had a great time. We haven't had that feeling in a couple of years. Why? There haven't been games like that for a couple of years. Hopefully we'll get that back again. You know, maybe GTA 6 will bring back that feeling again. I don't know. But in the meantime, ladies and gents, I appreciate all of you hanging out. I appreciate all of you supporting tonight. And I will appreciate all of your honest feedback that you could give me. So please give it to me. All right. And I will see you on streams over the course of 2025 right here on DSP Gaming or on the DSP Gaming Real channel over on Kick. Everyone, I hope that you enjoyed the countdown. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next year. Or hopefully a little sooner than that. And you don't just come by once a year for these countdowns. Peace out. Okay, folks. That was good. Like I said, I had a lot to say, especially at the end there. And again, I think you guys expected this, did you not? Did you not expect that was going to be the deal with this countdown? I mean, that was the pattern for all of last year. RPG I want to play doesn't work. RPG I want to play doesn't work. But then I play other games, works. So, like I said, actually this channel was having big problems. And then when I decided to actively stop playing the RPGs and play action games, it got a big uptick. It actually got a big increase of viewers and support after that. So it is what it is. All right. All right. So guys, here's the deal. Tomorrow, podcast in the morning, continuation of Stalker 2 on the day stream. And it's actually picked up because now we're in an interesting part of the game where the plot is hugely developing. We got this wish machine or whatever that we're about to interact with. And then tomorrow night, it is the top 20 best playthroughs of 2025. All right. I hope that you'll come by and hang out with me tomorrow for the best. You saw the most disappointing. Now you're going to see the best. All right. I hope to see you tomorrow for that. All right, everyone. But I got to get out of here and I got to upload and I got to relax. I just talked for 2 straight hours. I got to relax my voice now. Okay. Okay. Everyone, thank you so very much. Please have a good evening. Thank you for the support tonight, everyone, because this was a bunch of people who supported tonight that hit the goal tonight. I appreciate that. So Retro Danny says, by the way, in case you missed it, my opinion on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is that he strongly disagrees. He liked the story. It reminded him of Yakuza 7. He loved Ichiban. Yeah, for me, I'm sorry, I just liked 7 better. Like, I thought the plot of 7 was just way more interesting, and that this one kind of fell off at the end, and the end was weak. So because of that, that's why I thought it was disappointing. It's like, dude, a game that's strong and then all of a sudden the ending is weak after you played that long is pretty sad. You know, I thought it was kind of a crappy ending, honestly. Okay. Yes, some games will be on both lists. I can tell you that right now. There's some games that were great games that I loved to play through for one reason, but then ended up being disappointing for another. So you're going to see some of the games from tonight's list will also be on tomorrow night's list, and that's fine. This isn't the best and worst. This is the most disappointing and the best, which could happen. You could have something that's great, but it's still disappointing in some way. And that's what I'm going to highlight tomorrow night. Okay? All right, everyone. Have a good evening. See you all tomorrow in the morning. By the way, one second. That's interesting. So the more letters that you add to the leaderboard, I want to test something. You ready? I'm going to test something because this is new tech we use tonight. The more letters you add to the leaderboard, the skinnier the letters become to make it fit. So if I do this, watch this. You ready? Because now I'm going to reset this for tomorrow's stream. This is very intriguing. We're learning a lot. Oop. Yeah. So with this new leaderboard, when it's empty and there's no contributions, the letters stretch out and look a little weird. But as contributions are added, the letters squish and look better. Now that's interesting. Wow, this tech stuff, we're every day we're getting something new that I'm learning. This is wild, right? Game Boy, good evening. I'm glad that you stopped by and hung out, Game Boy. Sorry I couldn't talk directly tonight. Wow. All right. Well, good stuff, everyone. Everyone, I hope that you have a good evening. I'll see you in the morning for the podcast and for Stalker 2, and I hope you'll be back tomorrow night for the top 20 best playthroughs of the year. Everyone have a good night. Peace out. I will see you all tomorrow. Good night.